The third type of Earth Spirit House is transformed from the first level medium quality, Earth Wall Array. It has higher quality and more complete facilities. It is prepared for more wealthy cultivators. Considering that many powerful lone cultivators, or children of families and sects, are used to being pampered, they are too embarrassed to live in the same room with others, and they also dislike the single-room Earth house as too simple. Therefore, Zhou Daocheng specially refined a high-end Earth Spirit house. It has 2 floors and is equipped with a variety of facilities such as training room, bedroom, shower room, tea break, etc. In addition to the original defensive ability of the Earth Wall Array, a set of Spirit Gathering Array is also arranged, which is more convenient for resting at night or resting mana at ordinary times. However, the price is relatively high, 500 Spirit Stones. This price has exceeded the price of most first-level medium-quality arrays, but Zhou Daocheng believes that there must be many cultivators willing to pay for it. The fourth type of Earth Spirit House is the highest quality and most complete, and it is improved from the first-level high-quality array Thick Earth Array. There is nothing special about the house inside. It is still a 2-story building with 7 bedrooms inside to facilitate the rest and cultivation of the casual cultivation team. But the real luxury of this first-grade Earth Spirit House is the array configuration. In addition to the strong defense of the Thick Earth Array itself, it is also equipped with 3 other arrays with different functions. Mist Array, to cover the whereabouts. Gathering Spirit Array, to gather spiritual energy to restore mana. Poison Swamp Array, to form a trap next to the array to resist monsters. A multifunctional Earth Spirit House that combines defense, concealment, and cultivation. Not only can it be used as a cave to cultivate for a long time inside, but it can also be used as a position to resist the invasion of monsters. Whether it is a powerful casual cultivation team or some secluded cultivators, they will also be potential users of this high-end Earth Spirit House. So the price is also very high, requiring 2,000 Spirit Stones. But if you are in the wild, with such a multifunctional Earth Spirit House, the combat capability and safety will inevitably be greatly improved. Zhou Daocheng refined a set of each of the 4 types of Earth Spirit Houses, and then handed them over to Meng Yushan and others. And it was officially confirmed that an auction would be held in Wugu Market 6 months later, mainly to auction this cave-type formation. The original propaganda without any basis became more convincing after the addition of the Earth Spirit House. Many teams of casual cultivators were completely attracted by this cave-type formation after just one look. You know, most casual cultivators will stay in the wild for more than dozens of days when they go out to hunt wild beasts, and during this time, most of them sleep in the wild. Therefore, they often need to face more dangers at night, always be alert to the movements around them, and often do not rest all night. The appearance of the Earth Spirit House perfectly solves these problems. Moreover, the price of this formation is not very expensive, especially the 2 first-level lower-grade formations. If you are relatively wealthy and a casual cultivator acting alone, then buy a single Earth Spirit House for 100 Spirit Stones. If there are a large number of independent cultivators, they can buy a 5-person Earth Spirit House together. The price is relatively cheaper, and each person only needs 40 Spirit Stones. Therefore, in just 1 month, the reputation of the Earth Spirit House has spread throughout the independent cultivator circle, including some families and forces, because there are also hunting teams hunting monsters nearby, so they have also heard the news. And there is also a trace of curiosity about this new market built entirely by independent cultivators. However, there are also many powerful forces who sneered after hearing the news. Precisely because of their strong strength, they deeply know how difficult it is to build a market, and how can a group of chi-refining independent cultivators achieve it. Whether it is curiosity, expectation or doubt, at least the reputation of the Fog Valley market has spread completely around, attracting the attention of a large number of cultivators. Whether this result is good or bad, Zhou Daocheng himself cannot judge. He could already foresee that when the auction opens in half a year, there will definitely be a large number of cultivators going there. Among them, there will be those who sincerely go there to buy items, and there will definitely be those who have ill intentions. There will definitely be open and covert attacks. So he must be prepared in all aspects. On the one hand, prepare the items for the auction, and on the other hand, strengthen his strength and take precautions. Because it is just a small auction, and the items auctioned are mainly Earth Spirit House, so Zhou Daocheng only needs to prepare some formations. In terms of strength, Wugu has a woman with a red snake tattoo and Zhou Daocheng, a formation master, who can control the second-level upper-grade mist formation. It is a very powerful force. Even if there are 2 to 3 foundation building masters, they can deal with it calmly. And even if there are a lot of masters, they can barely rely on the formation to deal with it. On the surface, Wugu will also have 7 casual cultivators at the 9th level of Qi refining. Their strength is not weak, at least they can hold their own among casual cultivators. As long as no one provokes maliciously, there will not be too much trouble. However, the emergence of Wugu market and the outflow of various arrays still arouse the sensitive nerves of some people. Mo Yunshan Qi family. In the solemn hall, the middle-aged man looked solemn, holding a piece of letter paper in his hand, which recorded the list of the Wugu market auction. It was written, "Splitting gold array." When he saw these 3 words, a hint of sinisterness appeared in the eyes of the middle-aged man, and some bad past memories came to his mind. A young man wearing the Qi family's clothing bowed and spoke respectfully. "Master, we have already investigated in advance. The gold-splitting formation that appeared in Wugyufang City should be the formation used by the Qiangaling snake sect. And the power that established Wugyufang City is also likely to be the mysterious Shanhai sect." Quote. The man called the family looked gloomy and said lightly, "A few sets of gold-splitting formations killed 4 Qi refining 9th level elders of my Qi family. It's really a good method. And the place where Yunxiao was killed also showed signs of this formation, right?" Yes, in addition to the traces of the gold-splitting formation found at the scene, there are also a lot of traces of another formation. After speculation, it should be the formation named Golden Vine Formation in the list. The young man spoke calmly, with a hint of hatred in his eyes. The Qi family has not been in a good situation in recent years. In the battle with the Spirit Snake sect, the originally good situation was ruined by several sets of formations, and 4 elders of the 9th level of Qi refining died one after another. The young head of the family, Qi Yunxiao, also died there in an inexplicable way. For a time, the family power was rapidly tightened, and the prestige of the head of the family was also questioned, making the entire Qi family shaky. At such a critical juncture, they were repeatedly targeted by hostile forces and had to give up a large number of peripheral bases, suffering heavy losses in a short period of time. In the end, it was the elders of the foundation building period who came out of retreat in advance, which stabilized the situation. The more he thought about this, the anger in the young man's eyes became heavier, and he whispered, "Master, our Qi family has reached this point entirely because of this Shanhaizong. Since they jumped out on their own initiative, we must not let this go. What an opportunity." The middle-aged man's eyes were low and calm. He just glanced at the young man lightly and asked in a cold voice, "Don't let this opportunity go." "Why don't you let it go?" "Naturally, we invite the 2 clan elders to take action and completely eliminate this sect." Snort. The next moment, Leng Heng, wrapped in powerful spiritual energy, instantly knocked the young man back several meters, and fell directly to the ground, with a horrified look in his eyes. The middle-aged man stood up slightly, moaning in the darkness, and said coldly, "Does my son, Qi Junlin, only have this kind of character? How can he be able to achieve great things in the future if he is so easily carried away by anger?" The young man was lying on the ground, his pupils were bloodshot, his fists were clenched tightly, and he said hysterically, "Father, my Qi family has suffered heavy losses. This blood debt, it must be paid with blood. Stupid, do you know the opponent's strength? Do you know the opponent's trump card? Do you know their background? A force with an array master and the ability to organize and establish a city, do you think their identity will be simple? If you really behave like this, my Qi family's century-old foundation will be destroyed sooner or later in your hands." The middle-aged man's eyes were calm and he said in a low voice, "After your brother dies, you will be the next head of the Qi family. Remember, no matter what happens, you should put the overall situation first and don't act out of emotion. It is a taboo to make enemies at will." Hearing this, the young man remained silent for a long time, and finally he seemed to be discouraged and said, "Father, what should we do?" The middle-aged man nodded slightly and said, "Everything will be done if you are prepared, and if you are not prepared, it will be ruined. Only by being prepared can you be safe. You must continue to investigate Balin Lake and understand the depth and background of Shanhaizong. When we understand him well enough, it's time to take action." "I understand, Father." The young man nodded solemnly. "Also, you must learn to rely on the strength of others. Don't rush forward all at once. You may break your head and get no benefits." "Father, what does this mean?" The middle-aged man glanced at him lightly and reminded, "Balin Lake was once the residence of the Zhou family. If we want to say who has come into contact with the Shanhaizong and who knows the Shanhaizong best, it must be the Zhou family. The young man frowned slightly and asked thoughtfully, Father, I understand this too, but the Zhou family has been expelled by Shanhaizong. Where should we find them? And I remember that even Tianqi Mountain, the ancestral land of the Zhou family, was besieged by the two major foundation building families of Chen and Ma. Now that the buildings are empty, who knows where to hide in a corner to heal? Qi Zhen shook his head and said, If you want to start from Tianqi, it is indeed difficult to find the Zhou family, but you can try to start from Bailin Lake. After being prompted, the young man thought for a while, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he said, Father, I understand. There must be more or less connections between Bailin Lake and the Zhou family's new residence, and they will not hide it deliberately. We can definitely use this to find the Zhou family. Not bad. The middle-aged man nodded with satisfaction. Leave this matter to you, don't let me down. With joy in his eyes, the young man responded quickly. Don't worry, Father, I will lead people to investigate the traces of Zhou's family. After the young man left, the middle-aged man was still sitting in the hall. After a moment of silence, a black figure walked out of the hall behind him. This person was wearing a black mask and a black robe, completely shrouded in darkness, with a deep and dark aura. The black figure knelt on one knee, presented a secret message in his hand, and said, Master, this is the news from all the foundation building forces in Baihifeng City. Please read it. The middle-aged man's eyes were calm. He slowly picked up the secret letter and quietly checked the contents. After a long time, he slowly spoke. As expected, the emergence of a brand new city will definitely stir up the nerves of many people. If only a few casual cultivators at the 9th level of qi refining, this so-called Wugu Fengshi will become someone else's wedding dress sooner or later. Master, someone invited us to work together to solve Wugyufeng City. The black figure spoke slowly. What about the conditions? After sending a strong foundation builder and successfully occupying Wugyufeng City, let our qi family become one of the controllers. Hearing this, the middle-aged man did not show any joy, but just sneered calmly. Haha, back then my qi family wanted to settle in Baihifeng City and become one of the controllers there, but was blocked by all forces. As a result, now that we are encountering a difficult problem, we are asking for help from my qi family. Do you really think that my qi family will come at a moment's notice and leave at a moment's notice? The black shadow spoke slowly and said, Master, the other party must have had no choice but to do so. The war that broke out in Qingshan sect transferred many foundation building experts away, so the forces that control Baihifeng City are currently weak in overall strength. There are very few foundation building experts that can be sent out, so they thought of inviting us all to join the team. Do we need to agree? Quote. Promise. Why do you agree? The middle-aged man looked deeply and said, The strength of the Shanhai sect is unknown, and there is an array master standing behind it. There is no need for our qi family to confront him tit for tat. In the end, we will make him a mess. To this day, he still remembers how the Spirit Snake sect killed many foundation building experts of the Qi family with just a few sets of first-level mid-level formations. Therefore, when facing the Shanhai sect, the deep thinking head of the Qi family always maintained the greatest vigilance. Then I refused. Black Shadow asked. No need. Tell them that my Qi family's foundation building masters will not be able to come out of retreat until half a year later. Let them fight first, and we will take action later. They probably won't agree. Qi Junlin snorted coldly. When they hit a wall, they will come to us for help sooner or later. Just do as I say. Yes. The black shadow slowly retreated. When everything returned to calm, Qi Junlin's eyes were calm, and he muttered to himself, among the 5 forces that control Baihifeng City, only Disha sect and Jin sect have 2 foundation building masters. After Qingshan sect transferred 1, they can only send 2 foundation building masters to target Wugyufeng City at most. I just don't know if Shanhai sect can withstand the pressure. If not, don't blame my Qi family for being ruthless. A storm against the Zhou family and Wugu is brewing in secret. And Zhou Daocheng's mind is still all focused on the establishment of Wugyufeng City. With the publicity during this period, the reputation of Wugu market has been growing, and has begun to spread among all the independent cultivators and even small and medium-sized forces. Many cultivators have also begun to approach the direction of Wugu. Perhaps at the beginning, many independent cultivators were still half believing and half doubting, and were unwilling to take the risk to go to Wugu. However, when they saw a large number of independent cultivators at the 9th level of Qi refining starting to go to the surrounding areas of Wugu to hunt monsters, they could not help but start to waver. Because from any perspective, the Mist Valley, which is closer to the East Great Wilderness, has higher quality monsters and more natural treasures. However, in the past, few people approached it because of the dangerous environment. But now, not only has the Mist Valley market been established there, but there are also a large number of powerful independent cultivators going there to develop, which undoubtedly gives more independent cultivators new choices. For a time, a large number of independent cultivators who were mixed in Baihei market began to migrate eastward, so that some independent cultivators began to appear around the originally desolate Mist Valley. And this scene was also seen by all parties in Baihei market. It was only recently that Zhou Daocheng learned that Baihei market was controlled by 5 foundation building forces. They are Disha sect, Jin sect, Xian Pavilion, Hualongmen, and Baihua Pavilion. Among them, Disha sect and Jin sect are the strongest, with 2 foundation building masters. Xian Pavilion, on the other hand, exists in the form of a chamber of commerce, has the strongest control over Baihei market, and is a force that puts interests first. The identities of Fire Dragon Gate and 100 Flower Pavilion are somewhat special. Their founders are all foundation building casual cultivators. In order to establish Baihei market and strengthen the strength of the market, 2 foundation building casual cultivators were recruited. After they joined Baihei market, they obtained a large number of spirit stones and resources, so they founded Fire Dragon Gate and 100 Flower Pavilion respectively, completely breaking away from the identity of casual cultivators. Therefore, for many powerful casual cultivators, if they can become the controller of the market, it is very likely to completely change their fate. But Zhou Daocheng is not too worried about these 5 forces. Because with the war, each force has a foundation building strongman who was withdrawn, which greatly reduced the power of the entire Baihei market. According to Zhou Daocheng's estimation, even if the other party sent all the foundation building strongmen to attack Wugu, the number would not exceed 3. It is precisely because of this that Zhou Daocheng dared to promote Wugu market unscrupulously. Zhou Daocheng still understands the principle of taking advantage of his illness to kill him. If we can't take advantage of the current opportunity to completely establish the Wugu market, once the 5 forces come to their senses, there will be no chance at all. Zhou Daocheng tried to seize this opportunity, but the 5 forces in Baihei market were unwilling to give him any chance. During this period of time, they have discovered that a large number of independent cultivators have begun to leave Baihei market, and the number of monster materials and natural treasures purchased has also been greatly reduced, which has greatly damaged the interests of all forces. Fortunately, the sales of elixirs, magic tools, and talismans have not declined significantly, but everyone is still not optimistic about this. Because Wugu market has a bigger gimmick, formation. And it is a cave formation that combines cave cultivation and battle, which attracts a large number of independent cultivators, as well as many families and sects. This made the 5 forces in Baihei market smell an extremely dangerous atmosphere and began to explore and understand Wugu. For them, the only chance to stop the rise of Wugu market is the auction in half a year. That was when Wugu market was officially established, and it was also an opportunity for Wugu market to make a name for itself. It only needed to destroy it and crush Wugu with absolute strength, which was enough to completely destroy this emerging market. But for Zhou Daocheng, he was also waiting for this opportunity. In the next few months, Zhou Daocheng had been making preparations in all aspects. First of all, he needed to refine formations of various qualities, especially the first level lower quality, Earth Spirit House. Because formations were the biggest gimmick of Wugu market, as long as everything went well, he could completely rely on the influence of Earth Spirit House to establish Wugu's status in one fell swoop. Secondly, an auction in a market must not rely solely on formations, but also need other items to support the scene. Therefore, the preparation of various other resources also needs to be put on the agenda. For example, Zhao Yunji's silk inner armor. The Yuehua wine brewed by Zhou Daocheng. Wan Yang used the technology of the spiritual plant master to plant a large number of spiritual grains. Qin Lai refined a large number of first-level pills, as well as various magical instruments urgently refined by the Zhou family members. These resources may not be particularly precious, but they are all items that are in great demand by casual cultivators. In addition, in order to increase the influence of this auction, Zhou Daocheng also prepared several finale auction items. Although the quality is not high, the value is extraordinary. The first thing to bear the brunt is the formation. He prepared several sets of first-level medium-quality fusion formations, splitting gold formation, and golden vine formation. The quality of the first-level medium quality can be used by most casual cultivators, and the power it bursts out can almost reach the 8th level of Qi refining. Even the power of the instantaneous burst of the split gold formation can reach the 9th level of Qi refining in an instant. Once you have a set of formations with such power in your hand, it is almost equivalent to having an extra trump card, which is enough to fight back in desperate situations. In addition to the formation, Zhou Daocheng also contacted the head of the family specifically to get 3 first-level top-quality Ningling pills. Just relying on the words of a small foundation-building pill is enough to attract the attention of a large number of cultivators. At first, the head of the family, Zhou Chengyi, was very reluctant to give it up. After all, this rare elixir actually has extraordinary significance for many foundation-building families. If a large number of Ningling pills can be preserved, perhaps a strong foundation-building person can be cultivated with them in the future. Regarding this situation, Zhou Daocheng only asked the head of the family one question: "This Ningling pill, do you want to use it, or do I?" This sentence broke the defense of the serious Zhou Chengyi. What's the use of just having the soul condensing pill? Someone has to use it. There are only 3 foundation building masters in the Zhou family now, but who dares to take such a big risk and take a soul condensing pill? Instead of keeping it in hand, it is better to sell it directly in exchange for more wealth to cultivate the family's descendants. So after thinking for a long time, Zhou Chengyi handed the 3 soul condensing pills to Zhou Daocheng. He actually didn't know what Zhou Daocheng did, and he never deliberately understood it. He just learned about the underwater cave from the Zhou family. As a family head, he can see much more than ordinary family members, and can also perceive deeper meanings from small details. A large number of water-repellent stones require a lot of wealth and resources, which is almost impossible even for the Zhou family. Building an underwater cave is a huge project that requires manpower and material resources. Zhou Daocheng did not seek help from his family, which shows that he is not short of people. And the spiritual honey before, how could it be a simple matter to obtain so much high-quality spiritual honey from the spiritual insect swarm? This elderly Zhou family patriarch seemed to have seen the powerful strength behind Zhou Daocheng and the bright future of the Zhou family. So, while sending the Ningling pill, he also brought another more precious item, the second-level magic weapon Blue Moon Bracelet. Now the Zhou family has only 3 second-level magic weapons that can be used for combat: Blue Moon Bracelet, Giant Ridge Bow, and Soul Calming Bell. If you have to say something else, there is also a second-level Jade Spirit Box, but this magic weapon is mainly used to store treasures and cannot be considered a combat magic weapon. So when Zhou Daocheng saw the Blue Moon Bracelet, he was also quite surprised. He didn't expect the patriarch to be so generous and directly gave himself a second-level magic weapon. But he didn't refuse it. The environment he faced now was too dangerous, and it was also a good thing to have a second-level magic weapon for self-defense. In the end, Zhou Daocheng chose to contact the Spirit Snake sect in order to further increase the gimmick of the finale auction. For this old friend, Zhou Daocheng has always been very entangled in his heart. As far as the previous cooperation is concerned, Zhou Daocheng is still very confident in the Spirit Snake sect. Whether it is the elders and deacons within the sect or the leader of the Spirit Snake sect, none of them are cunning people. Especially the leader of the Spirit Snake sect. Not only did he not oppress the junior, but he even provided convenience many times and brought a lot of help. Through several interactions, Zhou Daocheng could clearly feel that the leader of the Spirit Snake sect was not very old, and his personality was generous and free and easy, and he was a person worth making friends with. So after thinking for a long time, Zhou Daocheng still chose to pull the Spirit Snake sect into his plan. He contacted several elders of the Spirit Snake sect and had a meeting at the water-resistant mine, and had in-depth exchanges, and finally reached a very good result. And, Spirit Insect Swallowing Spirit Ant, also became one of the finale auction items of this auction. When all this was done, several months had actually passed. All matters of the miniature market were almost ready. Through the information sent to him by Meng Yushin, he also roughly understood that the market in the Fog Valley had been established. Especially in the First Valley, the streets, shops, auction venues, have all been built under the responsibility of Wei Hanshan. The originally barren and barren mountains are now lined with exquisite shops, officially becoming a unique market. At the same time, a large number of casual cultivators have gathered around the Fog Valley market. When they saw the vast Fog Valley mountains and felt the extremely rich second-level spiritual energy around them, they couldn't help but marvel. Originally, they thought that the miniature market built by casual cultivators must be small and not up to the standard. But now that they have seen it with their own eyes, they know how big the hand is, and at the same time they are extremely shocked. When did such a big man appear among the casual cultivators, and he could actually build a huge market? Many people tried to enter the Fog Valley, but unfortunately, the market has not been officially opened yet, and the thick fog has always shrouded the surroundings, making all casual cultivators unable to get close. How could an ordinary casual cultivator be able to break the second-level superior natural fog array? Even, there were foundation building casual cultivators near the Fog Valley, trying to sneak into the Fog Valley from the dark. The final result also stunned everyone. The foundation building casual cultivator was lost in the clouds and mist, and finally Wei Hanshan took action to bring him out of the formation. At this time, everyone discovered that under the seemingly ordinary clouds and mist in the Fog Valley, there seemed to be an extremely terrifying formation hidden, killing people invisibly and blocking everyone from approaching. In the end, the foundation building casual cultivator also took the initiative to respond. This formation is of extremely high quality and covers a wide area. He just got slightly closer and completely lost his way. If no one brought him out, he would definitely be trapped to death in it. Even the foundation building strongman said so other casual cultivators naturally did not dare to underestimate it. In their curiosity about the Fog Valley market, there was a little more awe and fear. Later, although there were still casual cultivators who did not believe in evil and tried to break into the formation, they all returned in vain. And Wei Hanshan also showed the demeanor of a strong man. He did not hurt any casual cultivator, but sent them all out. Yuan Zhang and the monk surnamed Lu also suggested that all those who broke into the Fog Valley should be killed, to serve as a warning to others and establish prestige. But Wei Hanshan sternly refused, because he knew deeply that what Fog Valley needed now was mystery, deterrence, credibility, and a majestic and tolerant spirit. And not just decisive killing. As an experienced old man, he deeply understood that the real decisive killing had not yet begun, and the real deterrence did not rely solely on killing a few small casual cultivators. If this was really done, it would instead ruin the reputation of Fog Valley. After learning about this, Zhou Daocheng nodded deeply, secretly thinking that this person was very wise, and with this old man watching in Fog Valley, he could indeed rest assured. When the auction was approaching, Wei Hanshan also proposed an idea to Zhou Daocheng, to win over some powerful casual cultivators and enhance the strength of Fog Valley. The method was also very simple, that is, to sell some spiritual fields and caves, so as to win over some casual cultivators. The spiritual fields and caves in the Second Valley are very expensive and definitely not affordable for ordinary casual cultivators. And according to Zhou Daocheng's plan, these spiritual fields and caves will not be sold directly, but will be rented out. However, Wei Hanshan suggested that most of them can still be rented out, but a part of them can also be sold to attract some powerful people. Once they take root here and live in Wugu all year round, they will inevitably have a sense of belonging. If Wugu encounters danger in the future, they are also potential helpers. Moreover, in the future management of Wugu, they can also seek their help and jointly serve as the management to be responsible for the development of Wugu. Zhou Daocheng only thought about this suggestion for a few minutes, and then he keenly perceived the deep meaning and agreed with Wei Hanshan's idea. Selling the spiritual fields and caves in advance will not cause much loss to Wugu. But for these casual cultivators, it is indeed a huge benefit. Not only will they not refuse, but they will also be grateful to Wugu. Moreover, these casual cultivators must be a powerful force, enough to enrich the foundation of Wugu. The first batch of wooing and screening also began under the personal control of Wei Hanshan. There are actually very strict standards for the selection of personnel. First of all, in terms of strength, only casual cultivators with strength above the 9th level of qi refining are within the scope of being wooed. If there are foundation building masters, it would be even more desirable. Secondly, there are also strict restrictions on character. Those who do evil and have a vicious temperament will be excluded first. Even some completely unfamiliar and never seen qi refining level 9 casual cultivators will not be recruited. This work took more than a month, and finally Wei Hanshan successfully won over 5 qi refining level 9 loose cultivators. This made the number of qi refining level 9 loose cultivators in Wugu jump to 12, which was much more than the number of qi refining level 9 in the heyday of the Zhou family. This also greatly improved the strength of the entire Wugu. It laid a solid foundation for the opening of the Wugu market and the auction. When the half-year period was about to come, Zhou Daocheng also chose to return to Wugu and began to fully control the overall situation. At the same time, after half a year of fermentation, the number of loose cultivators around Wugu, as well as the number of cultivators from various families and sects, increased a lot. Many of these cultivators came from other places, and a large part of the reason was because of the battle between Qingshan sect and Lingding sect. The war between the two major Purple Mansion forces not only showed no signs of ending, but intensified, and the battle between Purple Mansion strongmen had begun to appear. The large spirit boat of Qingshan sect has been stationed at the western border for a long time, always ready to deal with the sneak attacks of Lingding sect. The battlefield of the foundation building masters is like a huge meat grinder, which is constantly devouring the number of foundation building masters. Not to mention the masters in the early and middle stages of foundation building, even the top masters at the peak of foundation building have suffered losses in this war. The spirit veins that the two major Purple Palace forces have fought for have finally revealed their quality. This is a third-grade high-quality spirit stone vein, and it also extends 3 first-grade high-quality and 5 first-grade medium-quality spirit veins. Its value is not small. It is precisely because of such great interests that both sides are unwilling to give in, and because of the continuous accumulation of hatred during the battle, they have already fought a real fire. Many foundation building masters died in the war, and the inheritance of their forces was cut off. They were subsequently targeted by hostile forces and suffered heavy losses. Under such circumstances, the number of independent cultivators increased sharply, and the impoverished families began to flee in all directions, and the eastern border was a good choice. Therefore, in the past 6 months, the number of cultivators around Baihifang City has increased significantly, and it has also become much more lively. For this reason, the number of people around Wugu has also been increasing, and because it is closer to the East Great Wilderness vein, there are more natural treasures and more treasures, which attracts more powerful cultivators. During Zhou Daocheng's journey to Wugu, he met many fellow cultivators, some of whom were independent cultivators, as well as family and sect forces. Some were upright cultivators, and some were evil cultivators who killed people without blinking an eye and tried to kill people for treasures. When he was only 1 day away from Wugu, Zhou Daocheng accidentally encountered the situation of evil cultivators killing people for treasures. 7 or 8 evil cultivators wearing black clothes and ghost masks surrounded a small family team. The air was filled with the smell of blood, and an old man had already fallen in a pool of blood. His pupils widened with fear, but his vitality had gradually faded. A young man in the team stuffed a pill into the old man's mouth while shouting in grief and anger, "Grandpa! Grandpa, hold on, we will kill these evil cultivators immediately to avenge you." The other family members stood back to back, their eyes full of anger and fear. Especially the young boys and girls. They are all young descendants of the family. Where have they seen such a scene? They were frightened to the point of turning pale, and their hands holding the knife were shaking slightly. Hee, revenge, kid, you better wait to die. The evil cultivator in black had a fierce look in his eyes, and a powerful aura was fluctuating around him, and the white bone long knife in his hand was stained with blood. Another person licked his lips and smiled lewdly. Tisk tisk tisk, another team from a small family, I like it the most. That's right, the little girls in the family are so tender, they cry for their parents when they play, much more exciting than the girls in the brothel. I like little girls with strong tempers, the more stubborn the better. HMPH. The leader said coldly, don't think about girls all day, get rid of them as soon as possible, so as to avoid more troubles. As he said, the magic weapon in his hand emitted a black light, and a thick black gas rose, spreading towards the family team. Another evil cultivator in black said impatiently, I know, boss, you can't even move when you see a handsome boy, so don't talk about us. Stop talking nonsense, kill all the old guys, and leave the young ones to take away. The conflict was about to break out, and the two sides immediately fought in a group. After just a few rounds, the middle-aged man in the family team showed a look of horror. Not only was he beaten back repeatedly, but even his magic weapon was directly chopped off. Even if he tried his best to resist, he was still in an absolute disadvantage. There were only a dozen people in the family team, and most of them were the younger generation of the family, and most of them were only in the early and middle stages of chi refining. The strongest ones were just a few middle-aged people, barely reaching the 7th and 8th levels of chi refining, but they were far behind the black-clothed evil cultivators. All 8 evil cultivators reached the 8th level of chi refining, and the leader was a 9th level chi refining strongman with very good strength. After just a few encounters, he chopped down another middle-aged man to the ground. The black-clothed evil cultivator showed no mercy. The white bone knife went up along the sternum, and with a shrill scream, the entire right hand was chopped off with one knife. Ah, father! The green-clothed female attacker surrounded in the middle suddenly changed color and rushed to the middle-aged man on the ground. He, this little girl is really pretty. Just play with her, guys. Don't damage her. If we sell her to Luanmingju, she can be worth a lot of spirit stones. The lewd evil laugh echoed in the jungle, forming a sharp contrast with the desperate and fearful faces. Zhou Daocheng frowned as he watched this scene. He didn't expect that the evil cultivators would be so rampant now, besieging and killing the family cultivators in broad daylight. This is the bad influence brought by war, which increases the number of evil cultivators and endangers the peace of the cultivation world. But Zhou Daocheng was not interested in this kind of thing. After all, the world is bustling and everyone is seeking profit. He didn't need to deliberately cause trouble. Moreover, a 9th level qi refining plus 7/8 level qi refining can be regarded as a very strong force. Even if Zhou Daocheng took action, it would probably take a lot of effort. However, just as Zhou Daocheng was about to turn around and leave, he unexpectedly saw the face of a person in the crowd and couldn't help but exclaimed, "Who is this person?" Seeing the evil cultivator slashing down with a fierce and domineering aura, and about to kill the family team, suddenly a green light stabbed swiftly. In an instant, the green light passed through the heart, instantly taking away a living life, leaving only a terrifying sound of breaking through the air. Who? The evil cultivator of the 9th level of Qi training shouted in fear, and hurriedly looked around. But there was no response. The green light did not hesitate at all, and pierced through the chests of several 8th level Qi training cultivators at a speed that was almost invisible to the naked eye, and a stronger smell of blood filled the air. It wasn't until the 9th level Qi refining expert gritted his teeth and tried to block an attack that Qingmeng stopped. I saw a green bamboo sword floating in the air, with a lavender halo, like a finely crafted magic weapon. May I ask who the senior is? If you have offended me, I will apologize here. The evil cultivator at the 9th level of Qi refining hurriedly shouted. Even if he blocked a blow, he still did not dare to relax. Because just a moment of collision made him feel the crisis of death. He clearly knew that his opponent's strength was definitely superior to his. But a few seconds after he finished speaking, there was still no one responding to him, only a faint sound suddenly coming from the grass on one side. When the evil cultivator at the 9th level of Qi refining looked over, he saw an even more horrifying scene. I saw 2 more green flying swords flying out of the grass quickly. Their terrifying power was no worse than the first one. What? Naturally, the evil cultivator at the 9th level of Qi refining did not dare to fight head-on. He could not resist just 1 flying sword, let alone 3 of them. But when he raised his feet and tried to avoid the flying sword, he was horrified to find that he couldn't move at all. I don't know when the soil under my feet turned into yellow sand, locking my legs tightly and still swallowing them. What is this? Before the evil cultivator could react, 3 green long swords attacked at the same time. In an instant, from 3 different angles, it penetrated into the 3 fatal weak points of the heart, back of the head, and throat, without giving the evil cultivator any chance to react. It wasn't until this 9th level Qi refining evil cultivator fell down in a daze that the other 8 level Qi refining evil cultivators tried to escape. But now that he had taken action, how could Zhou Daocheng let them go so easily? He just glanced at them indifferently and took away their lives. After the scene became calm, Zhou Daocheng slowly walked out of the jungle and put away the purple Qi jingling sword formation. At this moment, a thought suddenly appeared in his mind. It seemed that it would not be very difficult to kill a 9th level Qi refining monk, plus 8 8th level Qi refining monks. The power of the purple Qi jade spirit sword formation was also stronger than he imagined. The main reason should be due to the innate purple energy, which not only makes the power of Bai Lingju more powerful, but also allows Zhou Daocheng to command it like an arm. The ordinary jade spirit sword formation should not be so flexible and can only carry out surprise attacks in a straight line. Mainly because of the innate purple energy, today's purple energy jade spirit sword is completely controlled by the mind, almost equivalent to a sword cultivator's flying sword, which can kill enemies thousands of miles away. The rescued casual cultivator family was also stunned in place at this time, looking at the mysterious man wearing a purple robe and a bronze mask in front of them, and they did not come back to their senses for a long time. The scene just happened so suddenly. In just a few breaths, all the casual cultivators were slaughtered. There was not even time for them to be shocked. Turning to look at the dull group of people, Zhou Daocheng didn't pay much attention, but focused on one of the women in her early 30s. Zhou Daocheng recognized the person's identity after a brief confirmation. This person is the Shou generation of the Zhou family. Zhou Shulin can also be regarded as Zhou Daocheng's third aunt. She fell in love with a monk from a small family in her early years and eventually married him. Zhou Daocheng did not take the initiative to reveal his identity, but asked, "What family are you from? Why are you here?" If he remembered correctly, the family that the third aunt married into should have the surname Shu, and was located to the west of the Qingshan sect area. Among the few people, the remaining middle-aged man took the initiative and said, "Thank you, senior, for the rescue. I am deeply grateful. We are a small qi refining family. Because we are close to the western border of the Qingshan sect, we were attacked by the forces of the Lingding sect. The family suffered heavy losses, and we were the only ones left. We fled all the way here to avoid the war." Quote. Then why have you come here all the time? Logically speaking, shouldn't you settle in Baihifang City? The man sighed and said, "After we arrived, we discovered that Baihifang City was also in chaos and could not afford to buy shops to survive, so we thought about becoming a casual cultivator and going to the newly built Wugyufang City to try our luck." Zhou Daocheng raised his eyebrows and said, "I can't afford a shop in Baihifang City. Are the shops in Wugyufang City very cheap?" "That's not true." The middle-aged man smiled bitterly and said, "I heard that Wugu sells a cave-type formation. It is not expensive and can be used as a training cave. If we can buy one, our family will have a place to settle down." Zhou Daocheng was a little surprised. He didn't expect the cave formation to be so famous. However, this was in line with his original expectations. With the help of this special formation, he could attract more people and completely establish the reputation of Wugyufang City. The middle-aged man sighed, and then said, "But now it seems that a large number of monks come to Wugyufang City, and it is very difficult to buy a set of formations. If you really can't buy a cave-type formation, I can find a place to live in the nearby mountains." Quote. Zhou Daocheng nodded slightly. This is the fate of a run-down family. There is no spiritual vein, no cultivation cave, no spiritual stone, and the situation is not much better than that of casual cultivators. After thinking for a while, Zhou Daocheng took out a jade pendant and handed it to them, saying, "Take it to Wugyufang City. For my sake, they should sell you a set of formations." Looking at the jade pendant in front of me, the Shu family was stunned in place. I felt like I was dreaming. Being rescued suddenly and receiving such help for no reason made them extremely confused. Zhou Daocheng didn't say much. After throwing the jade pendant to them, he turned around and left. At this time, the young woman in her early 20s suddenly said, "Senior, my Shu family will definitely repay such a great favor. May I ask who you are and how we can find you?" Zhou Daocheng just glanced at her and said, "No need to look for me. As for why I help you, it's just for the face of the Zhou family." As he said, he glanced at the third aunt Zhou Shulin. He didn't have a very deep impression of this third aunt, but after all, blood is thicker than water. The Shu family suffered such a disaster, so it was right to help them. What's more, if the Shu family really settled in Wugu, they might have contact with the Zhou family in the future. Zhou Shulin widened his eyes and asked in confusion, "Senior, do you know anyone from the Zhou family in Tianqi Mountain?" Zhou Daocheng nodded lightly and said calmly, "I have met the old man Zhou Chengyi several times. We do have some friendship, and there are also several good juniors in the Zhou family with the surname Dao." Hearing this, Zhou Shulin couldn't help showing a surprised expression. "Senior, what you said is true. Dodge is really good, and he is proficient in refining at a young age." Zhou Daocheng's eyes twitched, but he still reminded slightly, "Does the fat boy Dodge really work? But there are also several younger generations in the Zhou family who are also pretty good. Indeed, Dao Bai is also very talented, and he is humble and hardworking." Zhou Daocheng. Suddenly, Zhou Daocheng felt that his mood was not so good, and he even wanted to take the jade pendant back directly. Too lazy to continue talking nonsense with his third aunt, Zhou Daocheng left directly after a perfunctory 2 words. Only Zhou Shulin and the Shu family were left with a confused look. The green-clothed woman asked with some doubt, "Why do I feel that the senior is in a bad mood?" "I don't know, did we say something wrong? Maybe he has a bad temper." The middle-aged man interrupted everyone and said seriously, "Don't gossip behind people's backs, or go to the Fog Valley as soon as possible. It is really a blessing for my Shu family to meet this senior this time. Remember not to forget it in the future." If there is a chance, you must repay it tenfold. When Zhou Daocheng returned to the fog valley, it was still shrouded in thick fog, mysterious and shocking. When he came to the first valley, the scene in front of him shocked Zhou Daocheng greatly. In the valley of dozens of acres, a large number of buildings have been built. From a distance, they are lined up one after another, which is no worse than Baihifeng City. In particular, the buildings in the core area are extremely magnificent, with more than 10 stories high, and exquisite patterns all over the building, which are extremely luxurious and exquisite. The ordinary shops entering and leaving have also planned their own areas, neatly arranged on both sides of the road, filling the entire valley. Looking down at the ground, the original soil has been paved with a thick layer of bluestone floor, which is very flat and stable to step on. In just half a year, this place has been transformed from a barren ordinary valley to the exquisite and atmospheric Wugu market. Originally, Zhou Daocheng planned to build only a miniature market, but now it seems that the area is no smaller than Baihei Market. Even if the second valley is added, the overall area has exceeded Baihei Market, fully reaching the standard of a small market. Moreover, whether it is safety, the richness of spiritual energy, or the richness of surrounding resources, it is much better than Baihei Market. After taking a general look around, Zhou Daocheng nodded with satisfaction, feeling very emotional. Building buildings in the market is not an easy task. It requires understanding the layout of the market and making precise plans and distribution according to the environment of the fog valley. For ordinary casual cultivators, these are very difficult tasks, but fortunately Wei Hanshan is not an ordinary casual cultivator, but an extremely experienced cultivator. So these tasks were given to him and all got almost perfect results. After Zhou Daocheng walked around, he went directly to the second valley. Normally, the first valley is only used to rent shops and conduct transactions. The second valley is the core of the high-level people in the fog valley. Because only powerful cultivators with strong strength and a certain status can afford to buy spiritual fields and caves in the second valley. In addition, the founders of the market like Wei Hanshan will also get spiritual fields and caves for free in the second valley. All those who can stay here are either rich or noble. When Zhou Daocheng arrived, there were already many people in the second valley. Because it was close to the opening of the market, Yuan Zhang, Xie Zhouhei and others had already returned. At the same time, there are 5 other Qi refining level 9 casual cultivators recruited later, so there are a total of more than a dozen people here. Zhou Daocheng walked in slowly, and the combination of purple robes and bronze masks immediately attracted everyone's attention. Several unfamiliar faces all showed vigilant expressions, until Wei Hanshan came forward and saluted respectfully, the others reacted. The 5 unfamiliar casual cultivators all looked at Zhou Daocheng curiously, and were quite shocked. If they guessed correctly, the person in front of them was the real founder of Wugu, an extremely powerful formation master. Such a person, whether in status, strength, or identity, is far above these Qi refining level 9 casual cultivators. Therefore, the group still saluted respectfully and called him senior. Zhou Daocheng just nodded slightly, looked at Wei Hanshan, and asked, "Old Wei, how is the situation in the market?" Wei Hanshan said respectfully, "To the senior, everything that should be prepared has been prepared. As long as the matters of the auction are prepared, the market can be opened directly." Zhou Daocheng nodded. Wei Hanshan was only responsible for the construction of the market building, and he was fully responsible for the auction. After thinking for a moment, Zhou Daocheng said, "Old Wei, notify them. The market will officially open in 7 days, and the auction will also be held on that day." Old Wei was stunned. He didn't expect Zhou Daocheng to act so quickly and plan to open the market directly. Somewhat worriedly asked, "Senior, do we need to do more preparations? For example, continue to recruit a group of independent cultivators. If we can have a foundation building independent cultivator join us, our safety in the future will be greatly guaranteed." Zhou Daocheng shook his head and said indifferently, "Everyone who should come has come. It's not that we can recruit foundation building strongmen by continuing to recruit." Hearing this, Old Wei also nodded slightly. He actually understood that although Wugu seemed to be thriving, it could collapse at any time, so the strong foundation builders would never join easily. The various forces in Baihifeng City were watching here, ready to deliver a fatal blow at any time to completely eliminate this competitor. If Wugu could not withstand the pressure of Baihifeng City, it would inevitably collapse and be eaten up by the wolves. It was even very likely that on the day when Wugyufeng City opened, it would be directly invaded by Baihifeng City, and the foundation building war would break out, causing Wugyufeng City to change its owner. These are all potential dangers. Before everything is settled, most of the strong are in a wait-and-see state and will not choose to settle in the Fog Valley market immediately. And the auction is the most important opportunity. Many people will not let the auction go smoothly, nor will they let the Fog Valley market open smoothly. But even so, Zhou Daocheng is unwilling to wait any longer. What is coming will come eventually, and you can't escape it even if you want to. It is better to face all challenges head-on. Old Wei, go and make arrangements directly. Leave the things outside the Fog Valley to me, and you will be responsible for the things inside the Fog Valley. Wei Hanshan nodded carefully. Okay, since the senior has made a decision, then Wei will naturally go all out. After speaking, Zhou Daocheng nodded, turned around and left calmly, and walked slowly towards the third valley. Until the figure completely disappeared in the mist, the depressing atmosphere was relieved. Several newly joined Qi refining level 9 casual cultivators stepped forward with lingering fear and asked, Old Wei, is this the senior formation master? Yes, if you are sincere in joining the Wugu market, the senior formation master will definitely not treat you unfairly. Wei Hanshan said indifferently. Of course, Old Wei, are you still worried about our character? But I have a question, aren't there only 2 valleys here? Where did the senior formation master go just now? Wei Hanshan glanced at him indifferently. Don't ask if you shouldn't ask. This is a formation controlled by the senior formation master. How can you know it? Zhou Daocheng stepped into the third valley. This place is completely isolated from the world, shrouded in layers of fog of formations. It seems to be right next to the first and second valleys, but in fact, ordinary monks cannot get close to it at all. Zhou Daocheng walked slowly into it, stepped closer to the cave of the woman with the red snake tattoo, and said in a respectful voice, Senior Red Snake, can I see you if you have time? Come in. A slightly lazy voice sounded. A few seconds later, Zhou Daocheng appeared in the cave. The woman with the red snake tattoo does not wear the iconic black tight-fitting outfit. Instead, she wears a loose and lazy bright red robe, with a full head of blue hair draped down, covering her fair skin. The smart little red snake is on the hair is faintly visible. Boy, why did you come to see me this time? Zhou Daocheng looked calmly and said, the auction will start in 7 days. There are many snakes, horses and cows around, so seniors may need to worry more. The woman with the red snake tattoo remained calm. Under her extremely seductive appearance, her cold eyes were as cold as the cold wind. There is no need to worry too much. Baihifang City will send at most 1 or 2 foundation building experts. With the help of your formation, we can deal with them. Zhou Daocheng shook his head and said, this is what I'm worried about. Even if the other party comes to attack, Senior, you can't kill them, you just need to expel them. Zhou Daocheng also had a brief understanding of the strength of the woman with the red snake tattoo. She was at the top of the casual cultivator and would most likely reach the peak of the 3rd level of foundation building. If she borrows part of the power of the double snake tattoo, her actual combat power will only be stronger. She should not be her opponent in the early stage of ordinary foundation building. Why don't you kill me? I'll save it and chop you later. The woman with the red snake tattoo said coldly. Zhou Daocheng was used to the other party's way of speaking, so he didn't pay too much attention to it, but explained, now that the Qingshan sect is involved in a war, it would not be a wise move to kill the foundation building monks under his command at this time. Quote. Red Snake was stunned when he heard this, and after thinking about it carefully, he did not refute. Because this is indeed the case. If they really take action to kill the strong foundation builder, then the other party only needs to file a lawsuit against the Qingshan sect, and rely on the reason of disrupting the war and assassinating the strong foundation builder of the Shanhai sect, which is enough to make Wugyufeng City fall into the abyss. Then what are you going to do? Zhou Daocheng raised his eyes and said, Senior, don't take action unless it is absolutely necessary. We can use the formation as the foundation and deal with the opponent. The woman with the red snake tattoo raised her eyebrows and questioned, just deal with it. You don't think you can make the other party stop using such gentle means, do you? Zhou Daocheng showed a soft smile and said like a spring breeze, peace is the most important thing in everything, and it doesn't have to be about killing. The woman with the red snake tattoo rubbed her head and said nonchalantly, forget it, I don't want to take care of this matter. Just take charge of it. Okay, thank you very much, Senior Red Snake. After saying that, Zhou Daocheng was about to leave the cave, but was called down again. Wait a moment, what else can Senior Red Snake do? Zhou Daocheng asked with some confusion. The woman with the red snake tattoo said, "Boy, I need to trouble you with one more thing. Explain. Do you still have the soup and bath medicine packets from last time? Give me a few more packets, preferably of higher quality." Zhou Daocheng raised his eyebrows. "No, but I have the formula, do you want it?" "Give me." Zhou Daocheng casually handed over the jingling medicinal bath formula. This is a second-grade low-grade medicine package formula. It is of higher quality and requires more precious materials, but Zhou Daocheng has never been able to get it together. In the case of the woman with the red snake tattoo, the high-grade first-grade, fire-scorching cloud medicinal bath would most likely not be effective enough, so it would be better to just give her a purifying medicinal bath. The woman with the red snake tattoo took it, glanced at it, and then frowned impatiently and cursed, "What the hell are these talismans?" Zhou Daocheng twitched the corner of his mouth and looked at the other party who had taken the wrong formula. He was speechless for a moment. "Senior, you have taken the wrong formula." "Forget it, you kid, read it to me." Zhou Daocheng blinked his eyes and asked unsteadily, "Senior, are you illiterate?" The woman with the red snake tattoo glanced coldly and said, "Is this a very rare thing? Stop talking nonsense. When I find it, I will share some with you." Zhou Daocheng was helpless for a while. He didn't expect that the woman with the red snake tattoo was such a proud person, but she was still illiterate. In desperation, he had no choice but to clearly report all the ingredients for the pure spirit medicinal bath formula. After the woman with the red snake tattoo took note of it, she turned and left. However, he did not go to other places, but opened another cave in the third valley. In the future, if he wants to stay in Wugyufang City often, he will also practice here. The concentration of spiritual energy here is no worse than that in underground caves, and may even be higher to a certain extent. Not only the aura concentration, but other conditions here are also better. Whether it is the surrounding resources, the level of safety, or the level of convenience, it is far from being comparable to Balin Lake. In his plan, White Scale Lake will gradually serve as a secret settlement hidden behind, supplying various resources. Wugyufang City will be the center of the next development, and it will be the foundation for improving strength and gathering wealth. Now that he has broken through to the 9th level of chi refining, the next step is to prepare for foundation building. The biggest obstacle is the spirit stone. Now his pockets are emptier than his face, and he can hardly take out any spiritual stones, let alone buy foundation building pills. What's more troublesome is that Qingshan sect is now deeply mired in the quagmire of war, and strategic materials such as foundation building pills have long been collected in advance and are almost no longer circulated on the market. Even if there are forces that have foundation building pills, it is absolutely impossible to take them out under such circumstances, let alone sell them. Therefore, foundation building pills have become Zhou Daocheng's biggest headache now. But he always believes that as long as he has enough spiritual stones, he will be able to buy a foundation building pill sooner or later. And a market is undoubtedly a huge source of wealth. The Fog Valley is quiet and peaceful, but there are dangers lurking in the dark. Outside the Fog Valley, on the top of a rocky mountain, two figures stand here. The powerful spiritual energy that is agitated around them repels the fog in the surrounding air, as if they are detached from the world. If someone is here, they will be surprised to sense the breath of the two people, which has completely surpassed the 9th level of chi refining and reached a more terrifying realm. Fellow Taoist Jin, what do you think of this Wugu market? It is magnificent and mysterious, but it also hides dangers. The old man in golden clothes frowned as he looked at the magnificent and thick fog in front of him, and a trace of fear rose in his heart. Another old man with a gloomy aura around him also had fear in his pupils, muttering, "It is really hard to imagine. I thought it was just a miniature market built by a casual cultivator, but I didn't expect it to be so grand." The old man in golden clothes had a gloomy face and snorted coldly, "It doesn't matter how big the deal is. The establishment of Wugyufang City has greatly affected Baihifang City. If this situation is allowed to develop, I'm afraid our future income will plummet. More than 50% reduction. What do you plan to do with fellow Taoist Jin?" The gloomy old man asked calmly. "When the auction starts, let's test it out. It is said that the formation master who controls the formation has not reached the foundation building stage. We may still have a chance to get rid of him directly." A formation master in the chi refining stage. How did you get this news? Of course there are channels down there. Around the Foggy Valley, in another hidden cave, there are also several monks gathered here. The leader was dressed in white, holding a white bone flag, and a gloomy and evil aura enveloped his body. Around them, there were several monks at the 9th level of chi refining, all of whom had gloomy auras, as if they were evil cultivators. However, if there are other casual cultivators here, they will definitely recognize that the person in front of them is not an evil cultivator, but a strong foundation-building casual cultivator, Pan He, known as White Bone Flag. He is also a decisive and powerful foundation-building expert. The second-level magic weapon, Bone Flag, in his hand is an extremely evil magic weapon that swallows souls and refines bones. But although this person's methods are evil, he never kills people to seize treasures. The souls he swallows are all monster spirits, and the bones he refines are also monster bones. Moreover, this person is quite capable, so he has gathered a powerful team of casual cultivators around him. But what makes this man most famous is not his strength, but his romantic style. It has long been rumored that, White Bone Flag, Pan He fell in love with, Flame Snake Girl, at first sight. Since their first meeting, they began to pursue her fiercely. Although they were rejected many times, they never gave up. Wherever Flame Snake Lady appears, there will be Bone Flag, Pan He. The almost inseparable image also made many casual cultivators who didn't know the truth of the matter automatically regard the two as Taoist lovers. The love and hatred between the two strong foundation builders has also become a hotly discussed topic among everyone. Senior Pan, I have asked someone to find out that the last place where Senior Flame Snake Lady came before disappearing was this foggy valley. Quote. A casual cultivator in the team said. Pan He's eyes were deep and he said calmly, are you sure? 8 to 90%. After Senior Shiji appeared nearby once, she never appeared again. Then there was news that Yufang City was established here. Pan He's eyes moved slightly, his fingers habitually rubbed the bone flag in his hand, and a look of thought appeared in his eyes. Is this Yufang City founded by her? If that's true, it's necessary to go and take a look. If I remember correctly, the city will officially start in the near future. 7 days flew by. Zhou Daocheng sat cross-legged in the cave, surrounded by a thick earthy aura, and his spiritual energy became a little thicker again. He slowly opened his eyes, looked outside the foggy valley, and murmured, it's time to open the market. He took out the communication stone and sent a communication to Meng Yushan. Get ready to open the market. In the foggy valley. When Meng Yushan saw the information in his hand, his eyes immediately lit up and he stood up suddenly. On the side, Mr. Wei opened his eyes, which were closed to meditate, and asked, Senior, have you received any news? Yes, let's officially open the market. As the words fell, several people saw the fog in the sky fluctuating, seeming to be pushed away to both sides under the control of a big hand. The thick clouds and fog overhead suddenly dispersed, and bright sunlight shone down, illuminating the entire valley. At the same time, a spacious road appeared at the entrance of the first mountain pass, leading directly to the outside of the valley. The formation that isolates the inside and outside of Foggy Valley is officially opened at this moment. Zhou Daocheng just took a glance. There were almost thousands of people waiting outside Foggy Valley, more than he imagined. You know, the location of Yufang City is very remote, and it is more than 10 days away from the nearest Baihifang City. Moreover, the publicity of Yufang City is only in the area of Baihifang City. Even if the number of people is large, it will not be much. But the actual situation was better than Zhou Daocheng expected. Affected by the war, many small families were destroyed. In order to continue the family inheritance, most of them chose to move to sparsely populated border areas, similar to the Shu family where the third aunt Zhou Shulin lived. Yufang City, located on the border of the eastern Great Wilderness, is obviously a very good choice. Zhou Daocheng is still very happy to accept these people. After all, they are exiles. They can't even satisfy their own food and clothing. How can they think of making trouble? What they need is just a place to live, a place to settle down and pass on to future generations. Such needs are undoubtedly more pure and more reassuring. The newly established Yufang City was originally designed to attract such people. It is best to live here for a long time and develop it for a long time. Although they are just a small family and a small force now, as time goes by, they will eventually become stronger and fully integrate into Yufang City, bringing vitality to this city. However, Zhou Daocheng withdrew his gaze after not looking at it for too long. Wei Hanshan and Meng Yushan were responsible for the situation in Fangxi, so he didn't need to worry too much. Moreover, he also has other things to take responsibility for. Slowly raising his head, he frowned and looked outside the foggy valley. It seemed that his powerful perception could see the situation beyond the foggy valley mountains through the layers of clouds and mist. Although it was only a very subtle breath, he did feel that a foundation building expert had appeared and was close to the range of the formation. Humph, I didn't expect you to be so impatient. You came just after the market opened. You didn't take me seriously at all. Zhou Daocheng restrained his breath, stood up and walked out of the cave, his figure immersed in the thick clouds. When he came to a mountain top, he saw a red figure standing there in advance. Zhou Daocheng was not surprised. What he could feel, naturally, could not be hidden from the red snake tattoo woman. How can you sense a few foundation building experts? Feeling the people behind her, the red snake tattoo woman asked calmly. Zhou Daocheng said lightly, currently, I can sense two, and their strength is not weak. Then how do you plan to deal with them? Or talk to them and let them give you a little face? The red snake tattoo woman joked unexpectedly. Zhou Daocheng stood with his hands behind his back, raised his eyebrows, and said, although I am an upright and kind person, I am not really stupid. Oh, then I really didn't see that. Ignoring the teasing of the woman with the red snake tattoo, Zhou Daocheng walked away and said, let's see the situation first. If the other party has no ill intentions, it's fine to expel him. However, those who dare to come today must have malicious intentions. In this formation, he had absolute confidence. Even if a foundation building expert came, he still had room to maneuver. As he came to the periphery of the formation, dozens of figures appeared in front of him. It can be roughly seen that this should come from two forces. One of them was wearing clothes with golden jade bottle patterns, and the other had a gloomy aura and was surrounded by a strong yin aura. Is this Jin sect and Disha sect? Zhou Daocheng muttered to himself. He had a deep understanding of the several forces in Baihifeng City and recognized their identities at a glance. This is also the only two forces among the 5 major forces in Baihifeng City that have 2 foundation building experts. Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but chuckled and said, it seems that they are determined. They sent 2 foundation building experts for the first time. Are they planning to strangle us in the cradle directly? The woman with the red snake tattoo looked at this scene with a solemn expression. The 2 foundation building cultivators in front of them all have reached the 3rd level of foundation building, and their auras are steady and heavy. They are both powerful people. In addition to these 2 foundation building masters, they also brought a group of chi refining subordinates, all of whom were very strong, at least with the strength of the 8th level of chi refining, and even a few with the 9th level of chi refining. This also made Zhou Daocheng feel strange. The other party should not know their specific strength, so why did they break in so confidently? Do they firmly believe that the strength of the Wugu market must be weaker than theirs? Although there were many doubts in his heart, it was too late for him to think too much at this point, and he had to deal with the situation as soon as possible. Otherwise, if they really broke into the Wugu and disrupted the first opening of the market, it would be a loss of face. While thinking, Zhou Daocheng pinched the magic formula in his hand and began to control the changes in the formation, trying to block the teams of the Jin sect and the Disha sect outside the formation. At the first moment of the formation change, the 2 foundation building elders noticed the abnormality and looked up at the sky keenly. It seems that the formation master has discovered us. We must be careful next time. The old man of the Jin sect reminded. The old man of the Disha sect snorted coldly and said, a mere chi refining stage kid, do you really think you can stop us? Look, I'll break his formation. As he spoke, the old man took out something from his storage bag. It was a wheel magic weapon, surrounded by a thick yin qi. As soon as he took it out, the surrounding area was instantly filled with yin qi. 2nd level mid-grade magic weapon, Di Yin Compass. The old man of the Jin sect was surprised. This is your Disha sect's treasure. You didn't take it out last time you hunted a 2nd level monster. How can you bear to use it this time? The old man of the Disha sect looked gloomy and said sinisterly, there are so many 2nd level monsters. Even if the hunting fails, it doesn't matter, but the market is related to the development of the sect. Once this market is allowed to develop, it will be troublesome. As he spoke, the old man placed the wheel on the ground, and suddenly a yin qi covered all directions. The yin qi was extremely heavy and was not affected by the surrounding terrain at all. It directly penetrated the fog in the mountain and began to spread rapidly. Zhou Daocheng sensed it quickly, and his pupils couldn't help shrinking slightly. He could clearly feel that this yin qi was like a maggot attached to the bone, sticking to the formation. It could not be completely eliminated by relying on the power of the formation alone. The woman with the red snake tattoo saw this scene and couldn't help but frown and remind her, This is the Earth Yin Wheel, a second-level magic weapon, which can use Yin Qi to explore the surrounding environment. Can you solve it? It's a bit troublesome. Just restrain the maze. Zhou Daocheng's eyes were low and he replied bluntly. The woman with the red snake tattoo looked at him in surprise and questioned, "You can't do it now. Is it a bit too fast?" Zhou Daocheng's mouth twitched, and his head was full of black lines. "Senior Red Snake, are you underestimating a formation master too much? I haven't made a move yet." "Oh, I didn't underestimate you. The other party came prepared and has a magic weapon specifically for restraining the maze. It seems that you are in trouble." The woman with the red snake tattoo stood with her hands folded and said lightly. Zhou Daocheng did not say much. He also felt great pressure. The spells in his hands kept changing. The heavy Wu Earth spiritual qi flowed in the formation, constantly controlling the changes. For a time, the natural mist formation fluctuated continuously, as if a strong wind swept through, and the clouds in the sky kept rolling. The purple robe whistled in the wind, and it remained motionless despite the strong wind. In the formation, the old man of the Disha sect obviously noticed that the strength of the formation was increasing, but he was not panicked at all, and his eyes were still calm. With both hands pressed on the ground, he used the yin qi of the roulette wheel to constantly sense the surrounding terrain. No matter how the fog changed, he could see the most real appearance and would not be misled by the maze at all. Zhou Daocheng created traps one after another, trying to make them stay outside the formation and circle, but they were all seen through by the other party and had little effect. Led by the old man of the Disha sect, the two teams did not hesitate at all, crossed layer after layer of fog, and continued to go deeper into the valley. Zhou Daocheng also completely stopped smiling. His expression became extremely serious, and sweat broke out on his forehead. On the side, the woman with the red snake tattoo also frowned, showing signs of attacking. "Boy, can you do it? The other party just made a slight move and emptied you directly." Zhou Daocheng ignored it and devoted himself to the control of the formation. The power of the second-level magic weapon did bring him great pressure, and ordinary means were completely ineffective. I watched as the two teams, led by the old man of the Disha sect, continued to go deeper into the fog valley, crossing the complex mountains on the periphery, and were about to enter the three valleys in the core. The woman with the red snake tattoo had almost no hope. Her brows were tightly furrowed, as if she was considering how to deal with the problem in front of her. The old man of the Disha sect also showed a happy expression on his face. "Ha ha, Junior, you are still a little naive. You think you can stop us with the level of a mere qi refining array master." The old man of the Jin sect also smiled and stroked his beard indifferently. "I thought the other party had so many powerful means. It seems that it is still a lot worse than you, fellow Taoist. The other party is still too young. After all, he is still a little immature, but he still has some means, and he can save his life for a while. After all, array masters are rare." The old man of the Disha sect said coldly without any modesty. "That's natural. Subduing an array master. Wow, wow, this harvest is not small. Get ready to take action, at most through one or two more clouds and mists. It's almost time to reach the core valley." The old man of the Disha sect spoke confidently, and once again led the team through a layer of fog, and from an unexpected angle, went deep into the valley again. However, this time, there was no cloud or fog ahead, but a thick rock wall blocked the way. When the old man from Jin sect saw this, he narrowed his eyes and asked in confusion, "What's going on? Why is there no road ahead?" The old man from the Disha sect also showed a puzzled expression. "What's going on? Logically, there should be a road here." Just as the two were puzzled, a 9th-level qi refining cultivator behind them suddenly said, "Look, two seniors, there seem to be words on the stone wall in front." "Hey, there are really words." The old man from the Jin sect took a step forward, looked carefully, and indeed saw a line of small fonts on the stone wall. "Stop right here and leave the Mist Valley, or you will bear the consequences." After just one glance, the two foundation building elders sneered, looked up at the sky with disdain, and said coldly, "Junior, you want us to leave with such a mediocre method? You are dreaming. I am not afraid of being scared when I walk in the world of immortal cultivation. If I am persuaded to retreat by a few words from you, where will the face of the leader of the Jin sect be?" The old man of the Disha sect chuckled and said, "Fellow Taoist Jin, there is no need to say more. There is a valley behind the stone wall. Just break his formation directly. That's exactly what I want. I want to see how shocked this naive junior is when he sees us. Ha ha ha." The wanton laughter echoed in the valley, shaking the clouds and mist slightly. The woman with the red snake tattoo stood on the top of the mountain, looked coldly at Zhou Daocheng, who was sweating profusely, and said disdainfully, "Your tricks are fine for fooling ordinary people, but do you really think you can fool the foundation building masters?" She has seen that the two foundation building masters have already rushed all the way to the front, only a few hundred meters away from the two. As long as they cross this stone wall, there will be no more obstacles between the two sides, and the next step is to face the battle directly. At this time, the mysterious man in the purple robe and bronze mask is no longer as indifferent as before. He is already sweating profusely, his face is pale, and he is too tired to say a word. This also made her feel disappointed. She thought he was a special man, but she never thought that the two foundation building masters would force him to such a point, which really made her a little disdainful. Even in his eyes, there was a hint of alienation and coldness. Amidst the wanton and rampant laughter, the old man of the Jin sect slapped out with a palm, and the aura with a sharp breath fiercely slapped on the stone wall in front. He had seen the scene of completely occupying the Wugu market and subduing a formation master. With the violent roar, the stone wall blocking the front collapsed, and the soil and rocks flew, and a lot of dust and gravel filled the air. The wanton laughter passed through the clouds and spread to the empty sky around. At this moment, everyone's heart was tightened. Whether it was the people of Jin sect and Disha sect, or the woman with red snake tattoo who made a subtle move, they all held their breath for a moment. As long as this stone wall was broken, they could officially enter the Wugu, which also meant that the formation was broken, and Zhou Daocheng's biggest chassis was broken. Without the help of the formation, the woman with red snake tattoo had to face two foundation building masters who were as powerful as herself. Thinking of this, the woman with red snake tattoo had a faint intention of retreating, and her eyes flickered. At this time, no one noticed that the face hidden under the bronze mask was still extremely calm. Although her face was soaked with sweat and pale as paper, there was no trace of timidity or fear in her lowered eyes, only calmness and indifference. Along with the sound of earth and rocks cracking and sneers, Zhou Daocheng's indifferent voice echoed on the top of the mountain. "Senior Red Snake, you seem to have forgotten who is the real array master." The pupils of the woman with the red snake tattoo shrank slightly, and the next moment, the clouds and mist in the sky became more than twice as thick in an instant, instantly covering all the surrounding mountains and enveloping everything. The large amount of spiritual energy gathered in the periphery flowed and gathered at this moment, as if it was attracted by the array. In an instant, the expression of the woman with the red snake tattoo changed drastically. She was keenly aware that she seemed to have become an insider of the array again from an observer outside the array. The clouds and mist that were several times thicker brought her great uneasiness. Beside her, the man in the purple robe and bronze mask, who was exhausted just now, had stood up again, standing with his hands behind his back in the wind, with a confident aura surrounding him. At this moment, she seemed to have truly seen what it meant to be the master of the formation. The power of the formation was supporting him, making Zhou Daocheng's momentum at this moment no weaker than that of a foundation building expert. However, she still frowned and said, "The opponent has already walked in front of you, what other means do you have?" But before she finished speaking, her pupils suddenly shrank and widened. As the fog gradually dissipated, the situation in the surrounding mountains unexpectedly changed dramatically. Dozens of people who were less than 100 meters apart were actually transferred to various corners of the formation in an instant just now. "How is this possible?" the woman with the red snake tattoo muttered in disbelief, as if she couldn't believe what she saw. She clearly knew that the two foundation building experts were indeed getting closer and closer, and they did break the formation at that time. But why did the direction change so drastically in an instant? Impossible. Everything just now was real. I definitely couldn't have seen it wrong. You were mobilizing the formation. After hesitating for only a second, the woman with the red snake tattoo dispelled her self-doubt and confirmed her own thoughts. The two foundation builders in the formation and dozens of chi refining level 8 and 9 cultivators were equally shocked. In just a blink of an eye, when they opened their eyes, the surrounding environment had become completely different. Looking around, they were completely shrouded in thick fog. Everything was unfamiliar, and a strong sense of uneasiness enveloped everyone, including the two strong foundation builders. The old man of Disha sect looked at the surroundings with horror, and murmured to himself, "Impossible, impossible. I have clearly cracked the maze, how could this happen?" I quickly took out the compass and looked at the surrounding terrain again. What shocked him was that everything around him had completely changed. It's not an illusion, it's a real change. How is this possible? Could it be that this is not a maze formation, but a legendary space formation? No, absolutely impossible. Although he tried his best to deny it, at this moment, the old man of the Disha sect in the foundation building stage still felt a trace of panic. Because the scene I just experienced was too incredible. The monks who were completely scattered in all directions were all caught in the formation and fell into panic for a while. The top of the mountain. The woman with the red snake tattoo gradually regained her composure. She stared at the man beside her and asked curiously, "How did you do it? What kind of formation is this?" Zhou Daocheng's eyes were calm. He stood with his hands behind his back and said casually, "Of course it's a maze." "Impossible. How can the maze have the effect of changing the orientation of space and disrupting vision? I can be sure that whether it was what I saw before or what I see now, it is definitely a real mountain range. Why can you change it in an instant?" Zhou Daocheng glanced at her lightly and asked, "Can you really see clearly? If you can see everything clearly, what do you want me, an array master, to do?" The woman with the red snake tattoo's pupils shrank, and she seemed to understand something for a moment, but she seemed to have more doubts. Zhou Daocheng said calmly, "Where does your confidence come from? Do you think that everything you see is real? Just because you are standing on the same land as me, looking at the mountains below from the same angle? How can a real maze be so simple? Could it be that it is just using the misleading of the fog to form a maze-like style to guide the monks to the wrong path? That is too naive and too superficial." It was not until Zhou Daocheng really understood this natural maze in depth that he understood the true secret of the maze. The more powerful the maze, the fewer false changes, and the more real changes. The misleading caused by the thick fog has always been the most basic maze method, because the fog only blocks people's eyes and cannot change the real world. And the real core part of this natural maze is the intricate mountains and terrain, which is the array pattern of this array and the root of all changes. On the surface, it is just a means of sleight of hand, but in fact, moving mountains and filling the sea, unpredictable, all real. But to really achieve this point, you need to have a strong control over the array, and it consumes a lot of mana. Therefore, the sweaty, pale, and weak appearance just now was not pretended, but it was indeed a huge consumption. With his current understanding and application of the formation, it is still difficult to truly control this fog array. Just a slight adjustment has exhausted all his energy. But the effect is also considerable. Just one change in the array pattern completely changed the situation in front of him, disrupting the positions of all visitors. It is not an exaggeration to say that he was saved from a desperate situation. Zhou Daocheng looked down at the figures in the formation with a hint of coldness in his eyes, and muttered to himself, "I have reminded you that so far, we can let bygones be bygones, but you don't seem to have seized the opportunity. When everyone's position is dispersed, their lives no longer belong to them." At this moment, Zhou Daocheng began to mobilize the fog in the fog valley at will, trapping everyone in it. The woman with the red snake tattoo also frowned slightly. Although she thought that the strength of the array master in front of her was very good, the move just now really shocked her. Even she, a top-level strongman at the peak of the third level of foundation building, was completely fooled by this incredible method and could not see any loopholes at all. Not to mention a group of cultivators in the chi refining stage. The woman with the red snake tattoo asked calmly, "The situation is very good now. If I enter the formation and cooperate with your help, maybe I can kill them all." Hearing this, Zhou Daocheng did not show joy or excitement, but just shook his head calmly. "No need, I have said before that at this time point, you can't kill the strongman of foundation building at will, otherwise it will only cause trouble." Even though he had the intention to kill in his heart, Zhou Daocheng knew very well that now was not the time. "So are you going to let them go?" The woman with the red snake tattoo frowned and said, "Is it too cowardly to do this? Once you show any weakness, the other party will definitely take advantage of you. I'm afraid there will be more trouble later." Zhou Daocheng habitually touched his chin and said thoughtfully, "Cowardly. Then change the way to send them away, so that they dare not come here easily in the future." "Change the way?" the woman with the red snake tattoo asked curiously. Zhou Daocheng did not answer, but began to adjust the mist in the formation, pulling the cultivators in it to the corresponding position. At this time, the two foundation building masters who were deeply trapped in the mist did not dare to act rashly. For fear that if they were not careful, the formation would change dramatically again, and it is very likely that they would be completely trapped here. It was at this time that they deeply understood the horror of this formation, and even vaguely realized that the quality of this formation was very likely to be very high, far beyond their ability to crack. Just when the two were at a loss, an unexpected situation occurred. Bang! Bang! Only two dull sounds suddenly sounded in the silent fog valley. The two foundation building masters turned their heads sharply and looked at the place where the sound came from. They saw the blood mist in the air dispersing and the strong smell of blood spreading rapidly. The pupils of the two suddenly shrank and they walked towards the nearest blood mist. When they arrived, there was only a pile of scattered pieces of meat on the ground, and the air was filled with blood-colored mist that had not completely dissipated. In the broken clothes left on the ground, the patterns of the clothes of each sect could be vaguely seen, and the identity tokens left behind let them know the identity of the dead clearly. Chong Chong. The old man of the Disha sect was so angry that his eyes were bloodshot when he saw this scene, and his aura fluctuated. But at this time, reason told him that now was not the time to take action. Because just now, when his disciples were beaten into blood mist, he felt a trace of the aura of the foundation building masters. And the aura was very strong, not weaker than him at all, and even stronger. This suddenly woke him up. It seemed that there was not only one powerful array master in this fog valley, but also a powerful foundation building expert. This discovery immediately made his back cold. He could imagine that if the other party wanted to kill him and wanted to keep him completely, he could let the foundation building expert cooperate with the array to attack, and he would definitely find it difficult to resist. Suddenly, cold sweat broke out from his temples and slowly flowed down his cheeks. However, after waiting for a few minutes, he did not wait for the other party to attack, but heard a dull explosion again. Then he saw a blood mist spreading in the air not far away. The two foundation building experts looked extremely gloomy when they saw this scene, but they still walked towards the direction of the blood mist. The situation was as they expected. It was still one of their disciples who was smashed to pieces in an instant, leaving only a pile of broken flesh and clothes on the ground. This horrifying scene and the brutal means made the two foundation building masters feel terrified. Next, every few minutes, there would be a sound of flesh and blood breaking. Then the two walked towards the direction of the blood mist. After repeating this several times, the two foundation building masters finally understood the other party's intentions. Their faces became more gloomy, and the fingers under their robes trembled slightly because of anger. The other party did not intend to kill them, or dared not to kill them. But they did not intend to let them go easily, but used the lives of the two disciples to lead them out of the formation. When dozens of figures were beaten into blood mist, the two foundation building masters had already walked to the periphery of the fog valley. What appeared in front of the two was still a stone wall, on which there was also a line of small characters engraved, only 4 words, "Peace is the most precious." When the two saw it, their eyelids twitched and they were furious. They almost gritted their teeth and smashed the stone wall with one palm. Behind the stone wall, as expected by the two, was the outside of the fog valley. When had the two foundation building masters ever been humiliated like this? They turned their heads and looked at the fog in the formation, their eyes full of gloom. If they were to fight head-on, they would at least be invincible, and even have a high probability of gaining the upper hand. But a set of formations rubbed the two people's faces on the ground, and even sent them away in the most humiliating way, leaving them with nowhere to release their anger. The old man of the Disha sect said coldly towards the depths of the formation, "Daoyu is really a good method, but Lin will remember today's revenge." The old man of the Jin sect also had an ugly face. "This matter is not over. I hope you stay in this tortoise shell for the rest of your life, otherwise don't blame me for being ruthless." However, there was no sound in the valley to respond to them. On the top of the mountain in the depths, the woman with the red snake tattoo took out a handkerchief, wiped the blood on her hand lightly, and asked, "Is this what you call peace as the most precious thing? Killing everyone and then bringing peace, this is also a kind of peace as the most precious thing." Zhou Daocheng said calmly. "But judging from their appearance, they seem quite angry and do not intend to coexist peacefully with you." Zhou Daocheng did not care. He tried to find the direction in which the two people left and said, "Let's see if they dare to come again. From now on, even if they continue to oppose the Wugu market, they will only be outside the Wugu. They will never dare to invade here. The battle at the foundation building level. They have already lost." Hearing this, the woman with the red snake tattoo thought about it, nodded slightly, and agreed with Zhou Daocheng's statement. After this lesson, the two people already knew that there was absolutely no chance of winning in the formation, so they naturally did not dare to rush in again. But the hatred between the two sides was also firmly established, but this was also inevitable. Now this situation may be the best result. The woman with the red snake tattoo raised her head, stared at Zhou Daocheng with cold eyes, leaned forward a little, the red snake tattoo on her chest was faintly visible, and said in a quiet and elegant voice, "Boy, I am more and more curious about your methods." Faced with temptation, Zhou Daocheng did not respond, but calmly took a step back and said indifferently, "Senior Red Snake, your attitude is quite different from before." Just now, when he showed a decline and was completely unable to fight against the two foundation building masters, the woman with the red snake tattoo showed obvious indifference. Zhou Daocheng knew that if he was completely defeated and the other party broke into the fog valley and had to face two foundation building masters at the same time, the woman with the red snake tattoo would most likely not go out with all her strength, but would turn around and leave directly. The woman with the red snake tattoo did not care about Zhou Daocheng's attitude, but still said indifferently, "Boy, you feel wrong." Maybe. Zhou Daocheng did not dwell on it too much, just mentioned it, and then revealed the topic. From the beginning to the end, he and the woman with the red snake tattoo were only in a cooperative relationship, and the binding force of a verbal agreement was not that great. Moreover, he had never really trusted this person. It was fine to let her kill a few chi refining cultivators, but if he really asked her to fight with a foundation building strongman, Zhou Daocheng thought that his face was not that big. After saying that, Zhou Daocheng turned and left. Solving the threat from Baihifang City is equivalent to solving most of the troubles. However, the first opening of Wugyufang City still has a lot of things to worry about. First of all, the auction has been opened in an orderly manner. A large number of cultivators have poured into the auction venue, and it is crowded. When Zhou Daocheng arrived, the auction was already halfway through. Compared with the auctions in Luanfang City and Baihifang City, the auction in Wugyufang City is obviously smaller in scale and the quality of the auction items is relatively low. There are almost no second-level auction items, all of which are first-level commonly used immortal cultivation resources. But this is not without any benefits. It is precisely because the auction items are generally of low value and relatively cheap that most people can participate in the auction. This makes the atmosphere of the entire auction venue very hot, and the bidding is endless. Moreover, although the quality of the auction items is all first grade, they are all very good quality items of the same grade. For example, the first-grade medium-grade Yuehua wine, a medium-grade fine wine, can be bought by even a not-so-rich casual cultivator. Zhao Yunji's silk inner armor is extremely light and tough. It is almost impossible to feel the weight when worn close to the body, but the defensive effect is excellent and it has strong resistance to water and fire. The Zhou family has refined a large number of magic tools. Due to the shortage of various refining materials, they can only refine the first-grade, low-grade and medium-grade ones, but for most casual cultivators, these are still very good magic tools. There are also the spiritual grains specially planted by Wanyang, the first-grade low-grade yellow bud grass, and the first-grade medium-grade green jade spiritual grains. They are very common daily foods that almost every cultivator needs. Logically speaking, these most common cultivation resources should not appear at the auction, but this situation has occurred at this time. Because according to Zhou Daocheng's original plan, Wugu was originally an exclusive market for independent cultivators and small forces, and its function was relatively simple. On the one hand, it is to provide a place for trading and communication, so as to get rid of the quagmire of Baihei market. On the other hand, it is to provide some daily supplies for the cultivators who hunt monsters around Wugu to rest. After all, Zhou Daocheng is still aware of his own abilities. It is too difficult to build a regular large market with only a few chi refining cultivators and the dilapidated Zhou family. Therefore, it can only develop slowly, expand Wugu market while improving its own strength. Maybe one day in the future, Wugu market can also become a large market. After Zhou Daocheng observed in the dark, he turned and left, heading to a private room. There were not many people in the private room, only Wei Hanshan and Meng Yushan. The two of them, as the behind-the-scenes controllers, have been controlling the overall situation to ensure that there are no accidents in each process. Seeing Zhou Daocheng come in, the two of them quickly stood up and saluted. Zhou Daocheng waved his hand casually, indicating that the two of them did not need to be polite, and asked, "Lao Wei, Lao Meng, how is the situation now?" Meng Yushan looked calmly and replied, "Master, the overall situation is pretty good. Although some people tried to stir up trouble, they are not strong enough and have been suppressed." Zhou Daocheng nodded slightly. He was still very confident in the combat power of Meng Yushan's people. Among the dozen or so ninth-level chi refining experts, as long as the foundation building experts did not come out, almost none of them could make waves. However, There are some things that we cannot decide, and we may need you, Senior, to resolve them yourself. Elder Wei also said. Oh, what happened? Zhou Daocheng raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion. Wei Hanshan thought about it and said, there are several groups of people who want to meet you in person, Senior. We can't stop them or persuade them to leave, so we can only arrange them in a nearby restaurant for the time being. Do you have to see me in person? Zhou Daocheng frowned slightly, his eyes flickering. Which group of people are they from? Do you know why they want to see me? Mr. Wei counted in detail. There are 3 parties in total, namely Elder Han from the Spirit Snake Sect, people from Zion Pavilion in Baihifeng City, and a strange casual cultivator. This casual cultivator seems to be a foundation builder. Strong. Zhou Daocheng's eyes fluctuated slightly, but he was not too surprised. The elders of the Spirit Snake Sect were looking for him. This was something he had expected for a long time. He had invited the Spirit Snake Sect to come, and the Spirit Snake Sect's Spirit Beast, Spirit Swallowing Ant, was also one of the finale items of this auction. As for why you were looking for him, Zhou Daocheng can also guess a thing or two, and it is most likely about Fangxi. As a powerful foundation building force, the Spirit Snake Sect is more aware of the difficulty of establishing a city and the benefits that a city can bring. The Spirit Snake Sect has no strength, but due to the relatively remote location of the sect, it does not have the conditions to control a city, which is not a small regret. I came here this time, most likely because I wanted to participate in the construction of the city. Zhou Daocheng has been thinking about this for a long time. The Spirit Snake Sect is powerful and has 3 foundation building combat powers. If they can win over and become allies, it will definitely be a very good choice. Therefore, there is nothing wrong with meeting him. However, the arrival of the next 2 people made Zhou Daocheng a little strange. Zion Pavilion. As one of the 5 major forces that control Baihifeng City, why do you specifically ask to see me at this time? Zhou Daocheng was also quite confused. This sensitive time is really not suitable for both parties meeting. As for the last strong casual cultivator, Zhou Daocheng had actually known it for a long time. The first time he entered the Wugu area, Zhou Daocheng had already felt his presence and tried to negotiate with him. However, after the woman with the red snake tattoo saw this person's appearance, she directly stated that this person was left to her to handle and Zhou Daocheng did not need to worry about it. Zhou Daocheng didn't say much about this. Seeing that Zhou Daocheng was deep in thought, Wei Hanshan persuaded him, Senior, this person's identity is not ordinary. You may need to go and meet him. Zhou Daocheng only thought for a moment, then retracted his thoughts and said calmly, don't worry, I know what's going on. After saying that, he turned around and took a secret road, directly outside the auction house, and headed towards the restaurant where the 3 parties were located. Although no forces have settled in Fang City yet, and the shops have not been sold yet, the internal facilities have been fully constructed. Once the auction is over, sales and leasing will begin. Therefore, it can be lived in now. After Zhou Daocheng thought for a while, he took the lead in going to the residence of the strange foundation establishment cultivator. After all, this person is the strongest and the stranger to each other. He is the party Zhou Daocheng is most worried about. When the 2 parties met, Zhou Daocheng still frowned vigilantly, because the aura exuding from this group of people was too similar to that of evil cultivators. The white bone flags exuding a gloomy black mist and the gloomy aura condensed around them all showed that their style was against the right path. The leader turned over the dead fish, glanced at Zhou Daocheng coldly, and asked, you should be the controller of this city, right? Quote. Yes, why are you here? Find someone. Zhou Daocheng nodded slightly. Since the other party had no intention of hiding anything, and the woman with the red snake tattoo also said that he would handle the matter, he did not need to get too involved. So he replied calmly, I understand. Senior, go to the back of Fang City. The clouds and mist there will clear a path. Senior, just follow it. Pan He was also a little surprised. He didn't expect this person to agree so easily and seemed to have guessed his identity a long time ago. Do you know who I'm looking for? Or, someone introduced me to you. Have no idea. Pan He narrowed his eyes slightly. What is your relationship with Flame Snake Girl? Quote. Zhou Daocheng frowned slightly, and did not intend to answer this boring question, but said casually, Shiji is already waiting, Senior, just go directly. After saying that, Zhou Daocheng planned to leave. But the next moment, accompanied by a cold snort, the bone flag shook violently. Suddenly, a cold and terrifying aura enveloped him, and the air seemed to be filled with ghosts, ready to devour all living beings in the next moment. Zhou Daocheng's expression changed greatly, and he took a step back. Wutu magic power quickly wrapped his body, and the second-level magic weapon Blue Moon Bracelet unfolded directly, forming a light blue shield in front of his body. At the same time, at such a critical moment, they immediately began to mobilize their formations. Wisps of mist surrounded them, trying to escape directly with the help of the formations. Sir, what does this mean? Zhou Daocheng's face was extremely gloomy. Pan He couldn't help but be surprised when he saw Zhou Daocheng's methods. But then he snorted coldly, and the white bone flag in his hand continued to release yin qi. Dozens of remnant souls of monster beasts floated in the air, looking extremely ferocious and cruel. Just now, it was this remnant soul of the monster that attacked. Although it was not as strong as it was in life, it was still extremely terrifying under the influence of the second-level magic weapon. Even Zhou Daocheng was almost injured. HMPH, what do you mean by asking me? Yanmei Snake Lady is my person. How can you call her Snake Lady? It's not too much to teach you a lesson today if you are so rude. Quote. Zhou Daocheng's face suddenly darkened. He originally thought he had offended the other party, but he didn't expect that this person would actually be a love brain. It was really unbelievable. But he didn't want to get entangled too much, so he had no choice but to give in. Senior Shiji and I are just friends. Have you misunderstood? Friends? Why haven't I heard that she has friends? I think you have ulterior motives and are plotting against Snake Queen. If that's the case, then prepare to die. Zhou Daocheng never thought that the other party would fight again after a disagreement, and his expression became more serious. Your Excellency is so aggressive, isn't it too much? Pan He snorted coldly. You are just a cultivator in the qi refining stage. Even if I kill you today, what's the problem? As he said that, dozens of monsters' residual souls around him roared one after another and rushed towards Zhou Daocheng. Zhou Daocheng's face was ugly. When he was about to use the formation to counterattack, a red light suddenly came and shattered the residual souls in an instant. Pan He, stop it. The woman with the red snake tattoo appeared at the door and glanced at the two people indifferently. Zhou Daocheng's face was gloomy, and there were signs of attacking. Since the other party was going to kill him, he naturally couldn't sit and wait for death. Besides, he now has an absolute home advantage in the formation, so it is not impossible to force the other party to stay. However, the timely appearance of the woman with the red snake tattoo barely maintained the situation, so that he did not rush to attack directly. Seeing the person coming, Pan He's face immediately showed joy, and he said in a slightly flattering way, Snake Ji, you are here. I have been looking for you for a long time, but I didn't expect you to be here. Seeing the other party's flattering look, Zhou Daocheng also looked ugly. He didn't expect that the woman with the red snake tattoo would have crazy pursuers. It really broadened his horizons. The woman with the red snake tattoo frowned slightly. Just come and see me, why bother a junior? HMPH, I see that this person is rude and has ulterior motives for you, so I will teach you a lesson. As Pan He spoke, he glanced coldly at Zhou Daocheng next to him. The woman with the red snake tattoo said calmly, he is indeed a kid who doesn't know what he is called. I just want to teach him a lesson. Let's go. As he said that, he also glanced at Zhou Daocheng lightly, with a hint of intimidation in his eyes. Hearing this, Zhou Daocheng also concentrated slightly, vaguely understanding the reason in his heart, and couldn't help but feel a hint of coldness in the depths of his eyes. The woman with the red snake tattoo knew Pan He's character and could probably guess that the other party would take action against her, but she still acquiesced to it all. This was obviously a deliberate arrangement on her part, and it was also a threat and warning. He was wary of the woman with the red snake tattoo, and why wasn't the woman with the red snake tattoo wary of him? Especially after the formation was used to drive away the two foundation building experts of Disha sect and Jin sect, the fear was obviously deeper, so Zhou Daocheng and Pan He were allowed to meet to teach them a lesson. Regarding such a method, Zhou Daocheng lowered his eyes and took a deep look at the woman with the red snake tattoo. Since Senior is here, I won't accompany you two anymore, Zhou Daocheng said calmly. However, Pan He didn't intend to let it go. He looked at the woman with the red snake tattoo with a smile and said, Shiji, I think this junior seems unconvinced. How about I take action directly and teach him some lessons? The woman with the red snake tattoo glanced at Zhou Daocheng's eyes and felt a deep coldness. She did not dare to provoke any more and said, that's all. After all, you are working under me. There is still use in keeping it. Let's go and talk about it. What's the matter with me? With that said, he left the restaurant and walked towards the third valley. Zhou Daocheng's chest was depressed and he stood there thinking for a long time, with thousands of thoughts in his mind. He was also thinking about whether keeping this woman with the red snake tattoo would be a good thing or a bad thing. I originally thought that the other party took the initiative to reveal the weakness of the double snake tattoo in front of me because he sincerely wanted to cooperate with me. But now it seems that this woman is not unsophisticated. He wanted to get benefits from himself, but was unwilling to cooperate sincerely. He even planned to let other casual cultivators beat him, using one method after another. Thousands of thoughts finally came together, and Zhou Daocheng could only helplessly mutter to himself, after all, the strength is still too weak. If the cultivation level reaches the foundation building stage, the situation will be more than this. However, we should indeed do something in advance. Be prepared, you can't be led around anymore. After burying this matter deeply in his heart, Zhou Daocheng's eyes darkened slightly and he walked towards the room in Zion Pavilion. A few minutes later, the two people sat opposite each other in a bright loft. Zhou Daocheng looked at the person in front of him in slight surprise, but he didn't expect that he was still an acquaintance. The person who came was none other than the enchanting woman he had seen in Zion Pavilion when he was selling formations. Her figure is still graceful. She wears an elegant lavender cheongsam, which outlines her breathtaking curves and has a unique and alluring charm. Zhou Daocheng still wore the bronze mask and said, "Are you from Zion Pavilion?" Aunt Chin Mu smiled slightly and said, "That's right, Aunt Chin Mu of Zion Pavilion has met Mr. Wugu." The soft voice is like the spring breeze blowing on the face, adding a layer of fragrance to the air. Zhou Daocheng also had to sigh. The person in front of him was really a beauty in the world, and his every smile touched people's hearts. Moreover, this person's style is very different from that of the woman with the red snake tattoo. The woman with the red snake tattoo is as hot and explosive as fire, her personality is cold and indifferent, and she is as sharp as a soldier. The woman in front of her was extremely unique and charming, with a lazy and shy look in her every move, as if she was full of lust, making people unable to extricate themselves. Even Zhou Daocheng was stunned for a moment when he saw this woman. Of course, Zhou Daocheng believed that he was not a womanizer. The birth of such lust was most likely to be blamed on sun and menstruation. Zhou Daocheng looked at the person in front of him carefully and said in a slightly joking tone, "As a member of Zion Pavilion, you came to Wugu specifically to find me on the opening day of Wugyufang City. Could it be that you want to leave Baihei? Fangxi, can you join me in Wugu?" Aunt Chin Mu smiled sweetly. "That may not be true. As the Lord of Wugu Valley, if the young master really spends a lot of money to invite us Zion Pavilion to settle in Wugyufang City, then we can't agree." Zhou Daocheng heard the words and chuckled. "I've heard it a long time ago. The Qin family is a family of commerce, and everything is based on interests. Now that I see it, it is indeed the case. I didn't expect that the young master would know my Qin family specifically." Aunt Chin Mu's peach blossom eyes flashed. "I know a little bit about it, but that's not the point. Let's be honest about why the girl came here this time." Really worried that he would fall into gentle land, Zhou Daocheng ended the chat as soon as possible and brought the topic back to Zheng. Seeing that Zhou Daocheng did not accept the move, Aunt Chin Mu smiled angrily, lifted up a strand of hair that was scattered beside her ear, and said, "The little lady came here because she really has something to discuss with the young master, perhaps it is related to the future of Wugyufang City." Quote. "Oh, tell me." Aunt Chin Mu's expression returned to seriousness, her red lips parted slightly, and she said, "Wugyufang City has just been established, and its background is quite shallow. Especially in terms of elixirs, magical weapons, and talismans, it has always been a headache for the young master, right?" Zhou Daocheng raised his eyebrows slightly, showing some interest, and said, "What you said is indeed good, but what do you think the girl has to say?" "It's not a good idea, but I can discuss a cooperation with you." Aunt Chin Mu paused and said, "We, Zion Pavilion, can provide you with a large number of elixirs, magic tools and talismans, but you need to agree to two small requests." "What request? Tell me," Aunt Chin Mu said. "First, all magic tools, elixirs and talismans that appear in Wugyufang City in the future must only be provided by our Zion Pavilion. You need to prohibit other forces from selling them. But you can rest assured, we can ensure that the quantity is sufficient, and at the same time sell them to you at a price 20% lower than the market price. How about it?" Zhou Daocheng's pupils shrank and his brows frowned slightly. "Tell me the second condition." "Second, I hope to buy a batch of formations from you for a long time. But I also hope that you can only sell formations to us in the area of Baihifang City and Wugyufang City." After the voice fell, the room fell into a long silence. A few minutes later, Zhou Daocheng's cold laughter came to mind. If Zhou Daocheng only frowned slightly after hearing the first condition, then after hearing the second condition, his eyes were filled with indifference. I have to sigh in my heart, the Qin family is worthy of being a family of commerce, and this plan is really sound. These two conditions seem to be fair and just cooperation, and even vaguely beneficial, but in fact they are full of dangers. If he really agrees, then the source of the elixirs, talismans, and magic weapons in Wugyufang City will be completely controlled by Xian Pavilion, and may even fall into eternal catastrophe. In a short period of time, Zhou Daocheng was indeed profitable and could earn a lot of spiritual stones. But once an unexpected situation occurs, as long as Xian Pavilion breaks the contract, it will be equivalent to strangling the lifeblood of Wugyufang City. The same is true for the second condition. As Wugyufang City's greatest advantage, formation is also extremely passive once it is in the hands of the opponent. If Zhou Daocheng agreed, he would almost push Wu Jiyu into the fire. Zhou Daocheng looked at the woman in front of him deeply and said calmly, "Miss Qin, do you think I am a fool?" "Master, why do you say this? I believe that my conditions are sincere, and I hope that the two of us can cooperate in a friendly manner." Aunt Qin Mu looked candid, with a faint smile. Since Zhou Daocheng had seen through her thoughts, he would not be easily deceived by her. "Haha, you are sincere. Since you said so, I have one more request. If Miss Qin can agree, then I will agree to this cooperation." Zhou Daocheng took a sip of tea and said calmly, "Master, please tell me, the little girl will do her best to satisfy you." Zhou Daocheng said, "You and I are getting married, and you will marry me as my concubine. I will agree to this request." As soon as she finished speaking, Aunt Qin Mu's face turned pale, and the charm between her brows dissipated a bit, but she became a little more angry. "Young master is joking. I'm not joking. I think Aunt Mu is of marriageable age. Is there anything wrong with this?" Zhou Daocheng's eyes were sharp. Since the other party was digging a hole for him, he didn't intend to give the other party a good look. Aunt Qin Mu's face changed slightly and she said, "Aunt Mu has several cousins who are also of marriageable age. If the young master doesn't dislike them, they can get married." "Haha, cousin, there's no need for that. I'm only interested in you, Aunt Mu. If the girl refuses like this, is she looking down on me?" "Don't dare." Hearing the aggressive tone of the other party, Aunt Qin Mu also looked ugly, and said again, "Young master is a talented man, and he is more than worthy of Aunt Mu. However, Aunt Mu cares about the family, has made up her mind not to marry, and will not find the way. My dear, please understand." "Oh, no intention to marry." Zhou Daocheng sneered and said, "It's okay not to marry. Then Aunt Mu will stay tonight and spend a good night with me. I can also agree to these requests, how about that?" Boom. Slapping her jade hand on the table, Aunt Qin Mu stood up angrily, her eyes cold. "Mr. Wu Jiyu, I sincerely seek your cooperation. It's fine if you don't agree. Why make such a joke?" Zhou Daocheng calmly took a sip of tea and said calmly, "You were obviously the one who made the joke first. If I agree to these two conditions, I'm afraid the lifeblood of the entire Wugyufang City will be firmly grasped by the girl, right?" Aunt Qin Mu's eyes were deep, and she took a deep look at the person in front of her. She understood that this person was not easy to fool, and she couldn't help but feel a little wary in her heart. Since the young master is unwilling to cooperate sincerely, let's give up today's conversation. I just hope that the young master will not regret it in the future. Zhou Daocheng said calmly, "Let's go slowly without seeing her off. Take the foundation building expert with you and get out of Wugyufang City. We are leaving late. Don't blame me for forcing the girl to stay and share a night of spring supper." Aunt Qin Mu's pupils shrank suddenly. She took a few steps back, and said in surprise, "You. Let's go, Aunt Mu, this young master is quite capable." A deep voice sounded. A restrained middle-aged man also appeared at the door. Zhou Daocheng was not too surprised about the visitor. He had already noticed the existence of this person, and he was also a strong foundation builder. As the second spirit root genius of Xian Pavilion, how could Aunt Qin Mu come to Wugyufang City alone? Naturally, she would be accompanied by a strong person. But what surprised him was that Xian Pavilion actually hid a foundation-building powerhouse in addition to the head of the family, Qi, who was a foundation-building powerhouse on the surface. This can't help but make Zhou Daocheng secretly vigilant. It seems that none of these powerful forces are simple. The middle-aged man looked calm and looked at Zhou Daocheng. Mr. Wugu, Aunt Mew just offended me so much. Please forgive me, but you can really consider the cooperation between you and Zion Pavilion. Zhou Daocheng glanced at him and said, what I said is equally valid. If one day you are in trouble and ask Miss Qin to stay with me for a night, I may be able to help. The atmosphere became solemn again. A cold anger appeared on Aunt Qin Mu's face. She didn't want to speak, but was stopped by the middle-aged man on the side. Then she said, thank you for your kindness, sir. I'll take my leave. Then she went directly. Turn around and leave. Zhou Daocheng smiled calmly. Since the other party had no sincere intention to cooperate, he did not need to give him face. But for Aunt Qin Mu, the conditions he gave were not false. Although it is impossible to really agree to the other party's two conditions, if you can spend a good night with this girl and get a wisp of innate purple energy, it will be a surefire deal. However, after all, he is a genius with two spiritual roots, so the Qin family of Zion Pavilion should not be willing to do this. After leaving Foggy Bottom, Aunt Qin Mu's face was still cold, with a chill in her brows, and she said angrily, Uncle, this bastard speaks so rudely, why do we have to give in again and again? The middle-aged man looked calm and only replied with one sentence. Before talking to you, the two seniors from the Disha sect and the Jin sect had been forcibly expelled by him using the formation. The dozen or so late-stage chi refining masters who came with him all died in it without any resistance. What? Aunt Qin Mu's pupils shrank. The middle-aged man turned his head and took a deep look at the valley shrouded in layers of fog behind him, revealing a trace of fear. This is his territory after all. We must not conflict with him here. Your behavior just now is actually very dangerous. Aunt Qin Mu heard this and showed an incredible expression, followed by deep fear. She didn't expect that this young master of the Fog Valley, who spoke without thinking and had a frivolous attitude, actually had such terrible power. Uncle, what should we do next? Let's go back first. This is his territory. We are no match for him here. But after leaving Fog Valley, the two sides can still compete normally. It is still unknown who will win in the end. The middle-aged man has considered it carefully and said, with the power of the five forces in our Baihifeng city, it is enough to suppress the people of Fog Valley. The competition has just begun. Fog Valley Feng City, restaurant room. Zhou Daocheng met Han Yi, who had been waiting for a long time. The two are also old friends. The contacts between the Spirit Snake sect and the Mountain and Sea sect are almost all under the responsibility of this elder Han, so the relationship between the two sides is very good. This is the scene at this time, which makes Zhou Daocheng quite helpless. Han Yi grabbed Zhou Daocheng's purple robe, crying and saying, Young master, you are so unkind. You built a new Fang city, and you don't know how to help your brothers for such a good thing. Zhou Daocheng touched his nose helplessly. He didn't expect that as soon as he came in, Elder Han would be so shameless and hug him and cry. However, in this way, he also roughly understood the idea of the Spirit Snake sect. The Spirit Snake sect, a powerful sect, has obvious advantages and disadvantages. It has strong strength, rich resources, and rare beast control methods. Unfortunately, they do not have the ability to convert these advantages into spirit stones, and the location of the sect is also in the deep mountains far away from the market. This leads to that even if they want to do business, they have no way or channel. Therefore, when they learned that Shanghai sect had established a market, they immediately made up their minds and must participate in this market. Not to mention becoming a complete controller, at least they must occupy a seat in the market and earn spirit stones. They also believe that with their relationship with Shanghai sect, they will definitely be helped, which will be much easier and more convenient than doing business in other markets. What's more, this is a new market, everything is still in ruins, and they are fully capable of participating in the construction. After thinking for a while, Zhou Daocheng had some ideas in his mind. It is not impossible to let the Spirit Snake sect participate in the development of Wugu market. It is even a very good choice. The foundation of Wugu today is still too weak. Perhaps Zhou Daocheng does have absolute sovereignty in Wugu, enough to deal with many foundation building masters and remain invincible. But this is only the deterrence brought by the formation, which is too rigid and the threat is not strong enough. As for other combat forces, there is only the woman with the red snake tattoo. However, this woman is not under his control, which is equivalent to an uncertain factor. Once she encounters trouble, she may run the fastest. Therefore, Zhou Daocheng urgently needs to strengthen his own strength to cope with the challenges to be faced next. He believes that the invasion from Baihei market today is just a test. Although he has successfully solved it, it does not mean that he can rest assured. The other party may not easily invade Wugu market. However, competition outside the market is inevitable. He believed that once the people of Wugu market left the market, the 5 forces of Baihei market would definitely kill them secretly. In this case, it was time to test the foundation of both sides. Zhou Daocheng needed some helpers to deal with these open and secret attacks. After thinking for a long time, Zhou Daocheng nodded and said, Elder Han, if you really want to join Wugu market, I can agree. Really? Han Yi got up excitedly. Zhou Daocheng nodded slightly and said, Wugu market is in a state of disrepair and does need help, but I have 2 conditions. Sir, as long as it is within our tolerance, I will definitely agree to you. Zhou Daocheng pondered for a moment and said, First, you need to send at least 3 elders of the 9th level of Qi refining to stay in Wugu market for a long time and help me manage Wugu. However, I will not let you work for nothing. I will take part of the tax revenue of Wugu market and pay it to you as management fees. After the first request, Han Yi agreed directly without any hesitation. This is not a request, it is a benefit. It directly promoted the Spirit Snake sect from a participant to the manager of Fog Valley, which perfectly met the needs of the Spirit Snake sect. Similarly, this also satisfied Zhou Daocheng's idea. Pulling the Spirit Snake sect into the Fog Valley camp can greatly enhance the foundation of Fog Valley and use it to fight against Baihei market. No problem, sir, we agree to this request. Not to mention 3 9th level Qi refining masters, even 5 is not a problem. Okay, second, I need you to provide spiritual beasts for a long time and stably, and they can only be sold in Fog Valley market. At the same time, I will also ensure that you are the only one selling spiritual beasts in the entire Fog Valley market. This request is actually very simple, just adding a layer of insurance. Even if Zhou Daocheng didn't say it, the Spirit Snake sect would sell spiritual beasts in the future. After all, this would be a huge profit. As expected, Han Yi also agreed directly. He didn't need to go back to the sect to discuss these 2 simple requests. He could make the decision completely by himself. After the 2 sides reached an agreement, Han Yi also showed a surprised expression and said excitedly, Thank you for your help, Mr. Han Yi is grateful on behalf of the Spirit Snake sect. Zhou Daocheng smiled and waved his hand. No need to say more, you and I have cooperated more than once or twice, and we are also familiar with each other's character. It is also a good thing for me that you can join this time. Han Yi nodded gratefully. Okay, then when the auction is over, I will immediately return to the sect and inform other elders about this. When the 2 sides finished talking, the auction was coming to an end, and the finale auction items began to appear. Zhou Daocheng then put his eyes back to the auction. A total of 3 finale auction items were prepared. Cave-type formations, spirit beasts, soul-devouring ants, and condensing spirit Dao. The first 2 types are more in number. Whether it is formations or spirit beasts, the number exceeds 100, while there are only 3 condensing spirit pills. These 3 items are the most anticipated by all cultivators, especially cave-type formations and spirit beasts. In the entire world of immortal cultivation, formations and beast control methods are extremely rare. Many small markets do not sell them. They are only available in top markets such as Luan Market, and the prices are generally very expensive. But what excited everyone was that such a newly established micro-market actually had such precious immortal cultivation resources. Although the quality is not high, it still can't stop the enthusiasm of the crowd. So as soon as these 2 auction items appeared, they were snatched by the crowd and the price also rose. The first level low-grade formation, which was originally worth 100 to 200 spirit stones, now costs more than 400 spirit stones. And many cultivators with sufficient funds did not just buy 1 set, but tried to buy a large number. For this situation, Zhou Daocheng couldn't help frowning. Maybe from now on, this behavior can bring more benefits, but it is not the case in the long run. Therefore, Zhou Daocheng immediately made a decision. Each cultivator present can only buy 1 set of formation, and the price is also capped to prevent it from being hyped too high. This behavior, on the surface, makes the income less, but it demonstrates the credibility of the official market and maintains its authority. At the same time, it also makes many casual cultivators with less funds and weak foundation applaud, and the evaluation of Wugu market has been greatly improved. The same was true for the subsequent spirit devouring ants, which limited the number of purchases, but still sold like hotcakes, allowing the Spirit Snake sect to gain a huge amount of spirit stones, and even Zhou Daocheng was jealous. Like the formation, the value and significance that spirit beasts can bring are also very great. In terms of strength alone, a soul-devouring ant may not be considered strong, and cultivators of the same level can easily defeat it. But it does not mean that the value of this kind of spiritual beast is low. In the wild, having a soul-devouring ant by your side can not only help guard against dangers around, but also enter some dangerous places that cultivators cannot enter, which has extraordinary significance. What's more, the strength of a soul-devouring ant is indeed not strong, but if there are 5 or even more than a dozen soul-devouring ants to assist, it can also greatly improve its strength. At least, in the battle with cultivators of the same level, it can improve the winning rate a lot. Therefore, all formations and spiritual beasts will be auctioned directly in just a few seconds once they are put on the auction table. After only 2 cups of tea, almost all the finale auction items were sold out, but it still could not satisfy the appetite of the cultivators present. Faced with this situation, Wei Hanshan also took control of the situation in time at the signal of Zhou Daocheng, and promised that from now on, Wugu will sell formations and spiritual beasts, soul-devouring ants, for a long time. This promise not only made everyone present feel at ease, but also raised the status of Wugu market in everyone's mind. In the eyes of many people, the level of Wugu market has even surpassed Baihei market. How much can a market that can sell a large number of formations and spirit beasts do, no matter how weak it is? In the end, the appearance of the Ningling pill completely raised the atmosphere of the entire auction venue to the climax. Compared with the first 2 finale auction items, the Ningling pill is undoubtedly more significant. Formations and spirit beasts are only auxiliary means after all, at most allowing them to have higher efficiency and greater sense of security when hunting wild beasts in normal times. But the Ningling pill does give them the possibility of breaking through the foundation. For casual cultivators and small families, it is almost impossible to collect 50,000 or 60,000 spirit stones to buy a foundation pill. Especially for casual cultivators, even if they try their best, it is absolutely impossible to accumulate so many spirit stones. Most casual cultivators at the peak of the 9th level of Qi refining are also helpless when facing the bottleneck of foundation building. On the one hand, they really couldn't afford the foundation building pills, and on the other hand, they didn't have the courage to break through without the foundation building pills, so they could only let themselves be over 70 years old, and never have the chance to break through to the foundation building stage in their lifetime. For example, Wei Hanshan, he was over 70 years old, his meridians were rigid, and his strength began to decline. For him, the road had ended, and it was almost impossible to break through again. There were also some people who would risk their own death and force a breakthrough to the foundation building stage. They might succeed, but in most cases, they would die completely during the breakthrough. Although the Ningling pill only increased the probability of a breakthrough by 1 level, it was still an opportunity that could only be encountered but not sought for by many casual cultivators. Therefore, as soon as the 3 Ningling pills appeared, they were immediately scrambled by everyone, and they were all powerful people at the 9th level of Qi refining. Even among the bidders, Zhou Daocheng saw Xie Zhouhei, Lu Chengzhou, Yuan Zhang and others. For them, breaking through the foundation building stage was also a huge threshold. If they could have the Ningling pill, they could also increase the success rate a lot. Until the end, 3 foundation building pills were won by 3 Qi refining 9th level masters. They were Xie Zhouhei, an unknown casual cultivator, and a patriarch of a small family. When the auction ended, many people were still reluctant to leave. But the end of the auction did not mean the end of the opening of the market. For many powerful casual cultivators and small families with certain power, today's transactions have just begun. The auction was just an opening, and the sale and rental of shops in the market was the real climax of today. A huge market could not be completely controlled by Zhou Daocheng alone. It also needed to cooperate with other powerful people and settle in it for common development. In the market, most of the small shops near the periphery could be rented directly, and the price was relatively cheap. Even many casual cultivators and forces with average strength could barely afford to rent. For example, the Shu family, where the 3rd aunt Zhou Shulin was, emptied all the spirit stones on their bodies and barely bought a small shop, which was considered to be a complete home in the Wugu market. There are many similar small families. They are generally weak and have insufficient funds. They try their best to buy a shop with the idea of taking root and multiplying here. Zhou Daocheng is very happy to accept such small families because they have no complicated background relationships and no messy little thoughts. They just want to survive. Therefore, even if many small families cannot afford the spirit stones, Zhou Daocheng will allow them to buy on credit and repay slowly in the future. If they really can't pay, it's okay to expel them directly in the future. Near the center, the shops here are larger and more valuable, so they can't be rented easily. They need to cooperate with the high-level officials of the market. For example, the Spirit Snake sect directly connected with Zhou Daocheng and sold a large shop with an extremely advantageous location at an ultra-low price of 1 spirit stone a year. There are also Wei Hanshan, Xie Zhouhei, Lu Chengzhou, Yuan Zhang, and female monks, each of whom is assigned 2 shops, which can be operated by themselves or rented. At the same time, Zhou Daocheng himself also left a few large shops with very good geographical locations. He planned to open some shops for himself and leave some for the Zhou family. After the market settled down, he planned to let the Zhou family develop here. Although the environment of Shenline Mountain is good, it has been far away from the market for a long time and lacks development opportunities, so the development prospects are not enough. And Wugu market is definitely a better choice for the family. In addition, there are some small families with strong strength or proficiency in immortal cultivation techniques, which are also interested in entering Wugu for development. In this regard, Zhou Daocheng did not agree to all of them, but asked Wei Lao to conduct in-depth investigation and screening, and select families with relatively clean backgrounds to settle in. Especially for families proficient in immortal cultivation techniques, their backgrounds must be confirmed again and again. And in terms of quantity, Zhou Daocheng also gave strict requirements. In the entire Wugu market, the number of forces for each immortal cultivation technique must not exceed 2. Zhou Daocheng is a cultivator who grew up in the family, so he knows more about the competition between families. In many cases, the more people there are, the better the competitive atmosphere. Once there are more wolves and less meat, all kinds of unscrupulous competition will appear, and it is easy to disrupt the market, which is extremely unfavorable for a market, and it is also not conducive to Zhou Daocheng's control of them. So in the end, Wei Lao and Zhou Daocheng discussed again and again, and after layers of screening, a total of 2 forces were accepted to settle in Wugu. The Shaodan Pavilion, that is proficient in alchemy, was also a foundation building force 100 years ago, but because of an accidental loss of foundation building inheritance, it became a force in the Qi refining period. Later, it joined Baihei Market, but was oppressed again, so it had to leave and left. It has become more and more destitute in recent years. Taking this opportunity, it tried to develop in Wugu market, and Zhou Daocheng also agreed. The other one is the Wang family that is proficient in talismans. It is a small family established by casual cultivators. There are 3 talisman masters in the family, and their identities are also very clean. It is said that they once had a first-grade medium-quality spiritual vein, but later they were invaded by monsters and now have no place to live, so they came to Wugyufang City. Both forces meet Zhou Daocheng's requirements very well. They are not strong, have a small number of people, have clean identities, and are extremely easy to control. Moreover, their alchemy and talisman skills are actually not low. Although they cannot reach the 2nd grade level, if they only refine 1st grade pills and talismans, they are definitely more than enough. Before accepting them, Zhou Daocheng also slightly tested their abilities and agreed after confirming that they have real materials. At the same time, he also deeply understood that the success rate of alchemy can reach 60% to 70%. Instead of Qin Lai, a prodigal, who refines 1st grade low-grade pills, the success rate is only about 20%, which really makes him heartbroken. But there is no way. Qin Lai himself is not talented. He was forced to become an alchemist without a master to teach him. It is normal for his level to be lower. However, in the future, the Wugu market will have a stable source of elixirs, so there is no need for Qin Lai to waste spiritual medicines. While the shops in the Wugu market are being rented and sold in large quantities, the spiritual fields and caves in the 2nd valley also began the first round of sales and leasing. At first, many cultivators sneered. After all, selling shops is fine, but who would sell caves and spiritual fields in the market? Moreover, if the concentration of spiritual energy was only the same as that in the 1st valley, probably no one would be willing to live here. However, when they first walked into the 2nd valley, they felt their faces burning. Because they were surprised to find that the concentration of spiritual energy in the 2nd valley was a world apart from that in the 1st valley, and it actually reached the peak of the 1st grade upper grade. This means that the concentration of spiritual energy here is almost much higher than that of the garrisons of most Qi refining period forces. For casual cultivators, such a superior cultivation environment is something they never dared to think of before. At the same time, everyone couldn't help but sigh that the formation method of the Lord of the Wugu was really amazing. It is incredible that two completely connected valleys have such different concentrations of spiritual energy. Therefore, after seeing the environment of the second valley with their own eyes, everyone dispelled their doubts and began to try to buy and rent. But there is no doubt that the spiritual fields and caves in the second valley are very expensive just to rent, let alone to buy. A cave with a defensive formation and a gathering formation costs almost tens of thousands of spiritual stones, which is not a price that ordinary casual cultivators can afford. If it is only rented for 1 year, the price is about 1,000 spiritual stones. Not to mention the caves with better environment, larger area and more formations. The same is true for the spiritual fields. The expensive price keeps many cultivators and forces out, and they can only look at the valley with rich spiritual energy in front of them and sigh helplessly. However, Zhou Daocheng did not completely give the key opportunities. At the beginning, Wei Hanshan used the spiritual fields and caves in the second valley to recruit 5 casual cultivators of the 9th level of qi refining. The agreement is also very simple. Wugu Market provides them with permanent caves and spiritual fields, and these cultivators also need to stay in Wugu for a long time. If they want to go out to hunt monsters, they also need to apply to Wei Lao in advance. In addition, Wugu also has the right to arrange for them to perform some tasks, such as public security management, or assisting in hunting powerful monsters. Strictly speaking, they are actually equivalent to signing a contract to sell themselves and become a member of Wugu's subordinates. For many casual cultivators, freedom is more important than life. In most cases, it is absolutely impossible to sign such a contract. However, the environment in the second valley is so good that it is difficult for them to resist this temptation, so some casual cultivators are willing to sign an agreement and join Wugu. Now, Zhou Daocheng plans to continue to promote this agreement to attract some powerful cultivators and forces to sell themselves to Wugu in a similar way, so as to get the opportunity to settle in the second valley. In addition, in order to make the agreement easier to accept, Zhou Daocheng also made some modifications and set up 2 different agreements. The first one is completely similar to the 5 9th level qi refining cultivators, who completely sold themselves to Wugu and obtained the permanent right to use the spiritual fields and caves. The second one is a relatively relaxed way of cooperation. Wugu rented the spiritual fields and caves to them for use, and they did not need to pay spiritual stones. However, Wugu would usually issue them some tasks, such as hunting monsters, collecting materials, or defending Wugu. In short, it is equivalent to an employment relationship. Generally speaking, this kind of employment relationship can be signed for a period of 1 year, 2 years, or even 5 years or 10 years. When these 2 contracts were released, many smart forces and casual cultivators fell into deep contemplation. They have already understood that the value of the second valley is not to earn spiritual stones, but to enhance the strength of Wugu. A large number of homeless forces without a base and caves for cultivation were all gathered in Wugu and became part of this market. Just using a cave, a spiritual field, and a safe living environment here can exchange for a group of powerful combat forces. But it is such a simple temptation that many casual cultivators are deeply trapped in it. No one wants to wander around, live in a wilderness filled with monsters, or be homeless. The environment of Wugyufang City is indeed something they yearn for. It's a pity that many people have such ideas but don't have the strength to match them. Zhou Daocheng's 2 types of cooperation contracts are all aimed at powerful individuals and forces, and at least they need to have a 9th level qi refining strongman. This directly screens out a large number of independent cultivators, including the Shu family and other forces where the 3rd aunt Zhou Shulin is. And the truly powerful cultivators will not easily sign such a contract of selling themselves. They need to think and weigh for a long time before making a decision. So on the first day, not many people settled in the second valley. But Zhou Daocheng was not worried. Even if it was not sold or rented out, at most he would use it himself, which would also bring great value. The first day of the opening of the Wugu market, it was very good to have the current performance. Although there were some unexpected situations and some unpleasant things happened, the overall situation was under control. Therefore, Zhou Daocheng was still very satisfied. After dealing with everything and it was getting dark, Zhou Daocheng also handed over most of the things to Wei Hanshan and Meng Yushan, and returned to the 3rd valley. However, as soon as he entered the valley, he met Pan He, who walked out of the valley. Zhou Daocheng secretly thought it was bad luck, but he couldn't avoid it. The moment the two looked at each other, Zhou Daocheng keenly felt a strong murderous aura, the eerie white bone banner, and the roaring of the remaining souls of monsters around. Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but frown, his muscles tensed, wondering what had stimulated this person. Boy, do you also live in this valley? What advice do you have, senior? HMPH. Stay away from Flame Snake Queen, and don't have any inappropriate thoughts about her, otherwise, don't blame me for exposing your Fog Valley. Senior may have some misunderstandings. Senior Snake Queen and I are not familiar with each other. Pan Yi's eyes were cold, and he said, your presence next to her is a mistake in itself. Faced with such unreasonable logic, Zhou Daocheng's eyes also became a little colder, and the atmosphere froze instantly. And at this moment, the voice of the woman with the red snake tattoo suddenly sounded, Pan Yi, don't make trouble at the door of my cave. Do you have to make things difficult for a junior? Quote. Hearing this, Pan Yi did not say much, snorted coldly, and turned around. Until he left the valley, Zhou Daocheng still stood calmly, took a look at the cave of the woman with the red snake tattoo, and felt a little heavy. The appearance of Pan Yi brought him a lot of pressure. If there was only one woman with the red snake tattoo, Zhou Daocheng would still be sure to control her and keep the relationship between the two sides balanced. But unexpectedly, behind the woman with the red snake tattoo, there was actually a dog-licking pursuer in the foundation building period, which made things a little troublesome. And what's more troublesome is that this person also has great hostility towards himself. At this moment, Zhou Daocheng had only one idea in his mind: whether to take action in advance, use the formation to trap Pan Yi to death, and solve this potential trouble. But after just thinking about it, he gave up this choice. He only had 20% control over the formation. If he wanted to completely trap a foundation building strongman, it is really a very difficult thing. What's more, he only has the ability to besiege, but not the ability to kill. Is it possible to keep the other party in the formation and wait for him to die in it? This is really unrealistic. After a long silence, Zhou Daocheng understood in his heart, if he wants to solve the current situation, he can't rely on external forces after all, and he still needs to have strong strength himself. Whether it is the woman with red snake tattoos, the spirit snake sect with whom he has a good relationship, or even this natural maze, they are just external forces. What Zhou Daocheng really needs now is a foundation building power that he can trust completely and belongs to himself. And where can he get this power? Zhou Daocheng's mind is full of thoughts. Deep Forest Mountain. A group of people appeared in the surrounding jungle, looking at the busy Deep Forest Mountain, with a look of surprise in their eyes. Young master, we finally found it. Quote. Qi Yunheng looked at the mountain in front of him calmly with sharp eyes, muttering to himself, Tianqi Mountain Zhou family, I didn't expect that after such a disaster, they still have a second-level spiritual vein. They are really rich in heritage. A Qi family cultivator wearing Qi family floating cloud clothing and short stature asked, Yunheng, do you want to take action directly? I heard that all the strong men of the Zhou family have died. With the strength of our team, we should be able to easily flatten this kind of thing. Qi Yunheng shook his head. Knowing yourself and the enemy, you can fight 100 battles without danger. Although we have 4 9th-level Qi refining strong men, this is the opponent's lair after all, and no one can be sure that there are strong men hidden here. Quote. Then Yunheng, what are you going to do? Third elder, you are the strongest, sneak in to find out their strength first, and after confirming their strength, we will take action. Quote. The third elder of the Qi family nodded slightly. Yes, you act cautiously and carefully, and you have some of your father's style. Well, I will go down to see the situation. Quote. Qi Yunheng just smiled faintly and didn't say much. After half a day, it was late at night. The third elder returned from Shenline Mountain and brought good news. Yunheng, only 2 9th-level Qi refining masters were found. Their strength is pretty good, but they should be a little worse than us. Only 2? Qi Yunheng asked in surprise. Yes, there will be no problem. At least in the entire mountain range, only the aura of 2 9th-level Qi refining masters can be felt. Qi Yunheng said to himself, I didn't expect that a powerful foundation building family would fall into such a state in just 2 years. The changes in the world are really unpredictable. Indeed, the Zhou family of Tianqi Mountain is also a powerful family that has been passed down for 100 years. I didn't expect that it would end up like this under the conspiracy of the Chen and Ma families. The third elder of the Qi family couldn't help but sigh. Qi Yunheng nodded slightly. Since they have fallen, let's send them off for the last time. It is also their blessing to become the nourishment of my Qi family. The cold words have determined the fate of the family in front of them. The fight between families is so cruel. They devour each other, compete with each other, and destroy each other. Only the strong can retain their blood and pass it down. Yunhang, since the situation has been investigated clearly, let's just do it. Qi Yunhang nodded and said, okay, all of us will act together and decapitate the 9th level Qi refining strongman first. If I remember correctly, the one who is still alive now should be Zhou Changyi, the head of the Zhou family. This person is not simple and must be eliminated as soon as possible. Quote. Okay, since the head of the family asked you to be responsible for this matter, we will naturally cooperate with you in full. Quote. The group made plans before taking action. Under the cover of a 9th level Qi refining expert, they carefully sneaked into the deep forest. In the silence, there was no sound at all. The spiritual fields in the deep forest were neatly arranged, and green seedlings had grown. They swayed slightly in the night wind. The biting cold wind blew the upright green seedlings slightly down. The red-feathered spiritual chicken in the dream also woke up from its slumber and made a few calls. It seemed to indicate that something bad was going to happen. A series of black shadows entered Shenline Mountain from a hidden path and headed towards the spiritual vein at the core. Shenline Mountain's alert was not weak, but the strength of the remaining members of the Qi family was too low to take effective precautions. The Zhou family, who were sleeping peacefully, seemed to be pushed onto a cliff at this moment. The Qi family quickly groped their way to the vicinity of the spiritual vein. Several caves were dug on the nearby rock walls. The 9th level Qi refining expert, with his keen perception, quickly determined the location of the 2 9th level Qi refining experts of the Zhou family. Without any hesitation, the 4 elders of the Qi family attacked at the same time. Boom! Bang! The powerful force erupted instantly, and a huge crack appeared in the mountain. The stone cave collapsed immediately, and the earth and rocks flew everywhere. The Qi family cultivators cooperated extremely well, rushed into the cave quickly, and took out powerful magic weapons at the same time, and chopped at the cultivators inside. Clang! But what was heard was not the sound of a sword slashing at flesh, but the sound of a sword slashing directly at the stone bed. Clang! There was only a crisp sound, the sound of the blade colliding with the stone. What? No one! The elder of the Qi family exclaimed. He clearly felt the breath of a 9th level Qi refining expert, but there was nothing in front of him. Just as several people were stunned in place, a dreamy bell sounded. Ding-ling-a-ling, ding-ling-a-ling. The crisp and pleasant sound was like a death warrant at this moment, which instantly changed everyone's expression. The extremely terrifying power spread in the air and instantly attacked everyone's mind. And in the air and instantly attacked everyone's mind. And in the air and instantly